Hello and welcome to Shite Talk, an Irish history podcast. Jason's away on holidays to Barcelona, so it's just me here to deliver you all the highlights, all the hits of the podcast intro. Number one, we've got a gig in Cork on the 27th of October in Collins. We can't go back into this again. It's the same place that we had the gig last time, which everyone said was class. So, you know, everyone who went to it last time, come on back. People who missed out on it, should come on. Come see the show. This time it's going to be a Halloween-themed episode. We'll be telling Halloween stories. The first live show we did was last year in Chennai. It was Halloween-themed. So it's an anniversary as well, on top of everything else. But that's the gig. There'll be a link for that. There's a link for that on the Instagram, which we also have. And I'll try and put a link for it in the description of this episode. But we moved platforms recently, and I don't know if I've figured out how to do it yet. We'll see after I finish recording this. But that's the main thing. All the other usual stuff. We have a Patreon. There's bonus episodes up there. We're about to put up the film review we did of Burke and Hare. We recorded that the other day. And there'll be a bonus episode up from this episode because it was very long. And the last half hour was just us talking about Eddie Irvine, a different racer. Which brings me to the topic of this week's episode. It's Tommy Byrne, the Dundalk Formula One racing man. Another classic Dundalk man story. But that's it, yes. Live gig, Patreon, social media, reviews, fucking, I don't know. Subscribe, grab 3 people in the streets and shake them and say, listen to this show. We do live comedy in the Halfpenny every week. And I love you. That's it. Here's the episode.
Now you're in for a story. Old tales of lore, all in search of a glory. The history and mystery of lads, lasses, and all. Discoveries and voyages, the rise and the fall.
Follow me now as we go back in time. We trace the steps of Irish lineage to find. Jason from Carlisle and Gavin Dundalk guide you through the ways of Shite.
Most of this story has come from the documentary Crash and Burn.
Spelt,
B-U-R-N.
which doesn't make any sense because
Yeah.
the guy's name is what?
So the guy's name is Tommy Byrne.
That's
And
such an easy.
It's so... And there's a book. He co-wrote a book. We'll talk about that at the end. Or actually, we'll just fucking talk about it now
Now,
because it's
would
the
he
same
would he have pronounced it Book?
book. He would... Again, we'll get into that. He would have at some point, not so much anymore. He's really lost the accent. But the book was him and motor racing journalist Mark Hughes. And that was called Crash and Burned, the greatest racing driver you never saw. And Burned there spelled B-Y-R-N-E-D, like the surname. Pretty clever. I don't know why they didn't use that for the documentary.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe it was a rights thing, but you can't have a right to a pun.
No,
That
and also
obvious.
because the movie, you'd just get more people to read the book and vice versa to keep it the same
exactly,
on brand.
Yeah. Lisa suggested it could have been called Tommy Byrne Rubber.
Uh-huh.
Also,
Even just burning rubber.
Burn and Rubber.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Crash and Burn, pretty good.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is the story of Tommy Byrne. So he was born on the 6th of May 1958 in the back of a car on the way to Drogheda Hospital.
Oh, like he's going to spend the rest of his days.
Yeah, it's a good origin story.
Yeah.
He talks about that a good
Born
bit.
in the back of a car as his 2 parents were being shot dead by a mugger after they've just been to the plays.
Yeah, the plays.
The plays.
Yeah, it was Batman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good origin story.
That's an origin story. So he's raised in Dundalk, but Black Rock by the looks of it. In the documentary, they go to his house and he's standing on Black Rock Beach for a lot of shots. So I assume he's from Black Rock.
Is that a nice part of?
Very nice part.
So it's nice in Dublin and in Dundalk.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah. No, it's become very probably not when he was living there in the 50s or the 60s. It's probably a bit of a dump, but now it's very fancy. But he walks around his house in the documentary and it's all overgrown and stuff. He's from Black Rock, I think. Anyway, but he's raised in Dundalk. His father worked in a factory in Dundalk town.
A car factory?
No.
Ah.
But Tommy would later say, my father got a watch when he retired, and I'm
A
not
car
looking
watch?
for any.
Is it a car watch?
No, it's just a clock radio from a car.
Right.
He said My father got a watch when he retired. I'm not looking for any watch. It's pretty cool line.
But what?
He's, like factory
He's not
job,
getting
work your whole life, you get a watch at the end. He's like, that's not the life I want. I'm going for the big time.
Mm-hmm. That's fair, but you could also still get a nice watch when you retire from racing.
Yeah, from whatever. Yeah.
I was just making him sound like he doesn't like presents.
I don't think he likes watches. Although I guess he is obsessed with speed and time. Doesn't matter. Anyway, so he left school at 15. He got his first job in town apprenticing as a mechanic/welder in a factory. I'm going to be honest, both times he says his dad works in a factory. It might have been a car factory.
Welder.
He just says a factory. I don't know. I'd say there was probably more than one factory in Dundalk in the 60s. Although, possibly not.
Yeah, but a car factory in Dundalk?
No.
No. So what kind of factory we...
The Carroll cigarette factory.
But they're not mechanics. They don't use...
welding cigarettes together. Yeah, I don't know. And then, there was a car that was made in Dundalk, actually.
What was that?
I can't remember. It's a weird little...
You're not thinking Belfast and the
bubble
DeLorean?
car. No.
An episode about that at some point as
Oh,
well.
yeah, for sure. But he gets a job in an unnamed factory in town. He said when he got there, he was nicknamed Foot and a Half because he was so short. They used to call him Foot and a Half. He said when he was working in the factory, all you could hear all around the factory was people shouting, "Foot and a half! Foot and a half!" Because he'd always be missing. And in his own words, he'd always be off robbing stuff.
I'm on board with Tommy straight away.
He says it so casually, but he's definitely just a kleptomaniac. Like he's like...
That's what you're meant to do if you're working any job for the man.
For the man, yeah.
You go and just find a way that you can just pilfer stuff. Just rob
He
things.
specifically says pilfer. He's like, we didn't call it robbing in those days. It was called pilfering.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm loving him.
He's a great...
He's like me.
He is like you.
Steal whatever you can. Even if it's not tangible, make it like stealing a living. Just like do nothing with your time.
Yeah.
And then at the end of it, try and get your paycheck. That's how the world works.
Blackrock's a very fancy part now, but he was very poor, working class family. So he's saying like a lot of stuff he stole. Well, not even a lot. He said some stuff he stole because you need it. A lot of stuff he just stole for the crack. He said he stole something every day. He just wrap it up in his
just
clothes
to keep him alive.
Just genuinely, it seemed for the fun of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now some stuff, he's stealing for necessity, but a lot of it is just for the crack.
Now I don't know if I've told you this story before. But seeing as we're drinking this Irish whiskey, I can't say what it is, but it's a cold brew coffee whiskey. You can't say the name.
Why?
Because I'm about to tell a story.
Okay.
Okay, so there's a place that's not Jameson.
Okay.
Right, that has a location that they like stored a load of bottles in over the years, and they're seemingly lads who've been working there have just been going in throughout the years, just nicking bottles, like nicking liters here and there, 70 CLs, wherever. No one's gone in to check. So at some point they're going to go check that inventory. And they're going to be down thousands of bottles of whiskey.
Yeah.
And you're like, it probably shouldn't make a difference to them.
It will.
It will eventually at some point.
Yeah. You take one here, you take one there, you do that for 40 years and that becomes an issue, I guess.
And all of a sudden they go and check and they're like, holy shit, we're down £1 million. Cost of doing business.
Yeah.
That's like all of those places that... another tip for people who want to rob things: if you're working in like a store around Christmas time, they've got like say like a toy store or say like a garden store, wherever it is. They've got like a breakage amount, and everything that's stolen or lost goes into that. So if you just don't break anything and there's no like broken returns, then everything that you steal still comes in underneath, like that barrier, or that line. You're golden. I knew a lad who stole 12 PSPs from Smith's in Waterford.
Yeah.
And at the end of in January, the guy came around, like the manager, the guy. He's like, right, lads, going through the list, we've after losing like 12 PSPs, all these games, everything, and it's under limits for £1,000 anyway.
Well done. See you next year.
Yeah. Just like a couple of grand easy taken. Like it's underneath the percentage they allowed us.
Yeah.
So it's fine.
Grand. Well, I mean, those are good tips. Tommy didn't adhere to that, though. He was taking too much. And eventually he got caught and brought up to court.
Oh.
So, yeah, he got fined and fired. But he had another job early on where he was working in a petrol station in Dundalk. And he said the customers used to show up and be like, there'll be some day we'll show up and you won't be here because you'll be dead. Because he was always also notorious for rallying around the town.
Or are you going to say smoking next to...
Oh no, it was the
the
60s. I assume
petrol
they were all
tanks.
doing that
Yeah.
and just flicking cigarettes at the oil. But he had a name for like speeding around the town. But he was planning on getting out of old Dundalk and heading to America when he was like 16, 17. But just before he headed off, he got the chance to drive a car around Mondello Park. He did 15 laps and he was hooked.
Nice. Now Mondello's the Irish bit. That's the big racing course in Ireland.
Yeah, it's in Kildare
Yeah.
somewhere. But he got started in the racing game, fixing Mini Coopers and test driving them around for like a local stock car race. Apparently he did the job for free because he just loved cars, which is exactly what the people who ran the track want to hear.
No, I'm sure, but that's the same as like comedy or anything.
Yeah, exactly.
They're
Yeah.
like, oh, you really like doing a thing? Well,
you just come down and
I
work
had
the
50
door for free.
I
You
had-
get to meet the comics.
I had 50 quid in my hand, but you know what? I'm going to put that in my back pocket. You going to be paid in experience and opportunity.
Yeah, sure, you'd be down here anyway. So he's hooked in the racing game now. He got his mother to tell a bank manager in Dundalk that his sister was pregnant and they needed £12,500 to build an extension on the house.
Nice.
They spent it all on his first car.
Of course.
Yes.
That's more of a credit union scam than a bank, though.
Again, it's the probably early 70s in Ireland.
Mm.
You were just showing me your bank balance there in America. It's like over €0, $0, zero savings. Like, do you want a house?
Yeah.
Would you like a mortgage?
Technically, I was minus $4.07.
Yeah.
And they were like, mortgage? I'm like, do you know what? Now would be the time.
When I'm in the red. So yeah, they used that money to buy Tommy's first race car,
Do you remember that credit union ad from a few years ago?
where they're like,
Just sat in,
Yeah.
a bunch of people
With
sit
the
down in front of the bank,
subtitles.
in front of the
Yeah,
credit
yeah,
union
yeah.
manager. I was like, I'm going back to college, and underneath it is like a pizza with the boys.
yeah, weekend in Amsterdam.
Yeah, and at the end of it, they just show like 10 different people lying to the credit
Yeah.
union about why they need loans, and they give them all loans, and they're like,
Yeah.
credit union, we're asking to be fucked over.
That it was a very Celtic Tiger ad, and the point of the ad was that like when the credit, so the people are talking, and then the subtitles are showing what they really want it for, and then
Yeah.
the credit union people talk, and the subtitles reflect what they're saying. But that wasn't the point of the ad. The point of the ad was that you were like, you can go in and lie to us,
Yeah.
and we'll give you money to go on the piss with the lads.
And it basically, for any Americans listening, the credit union loans come back like a $2,000 loan. You maybe have to pay back like a $5 a week. They'll just like, it's just indefinite. It's the rest of
Yeah.
your life. There's not going to be any interest. You're just going to go like 5 to 10 quid a week.
Hmm.
Give me a load of money up front right now.
But well, Tommy was pulling bank scams, but he got his money, he got his car, and he brought his first racing car down to Mondello Park in 1977.
So he spent 12.5 grand.
Yeah.
Was it all gone on the car?
Oh yeah.
Because that's in 1970.
I
That is so much money.
I have numbers at the end of this for like current day.
Okay, because
It is
I
insane.
was going to say, can you tell me in houses how many that is?
Yeah.
Because that's you always hear Irish people say, back in the 70s and 80s, you'd buy a house for 10, 20 grand.
Yeah.
He's after spending 12 and a half on a
Yeah.
car. That's you could buy Dundalk for that.
Well, he got the 12.5 to build a like extension on the house.
Mm.
That a car costs an extension on the house, basically.
Never mind an extension. You'd buy a house in Dundalk.
Yeah.
I want to know, did they actually build the extension? Just in case they came around looking.
No, they didn't.
Class.
So, well, okay, I don't know, is this the time to put it in here? But, like, right, I've got the modern day figures. So, to get into Formula F3, between 200 and 300 grand a year.
Oh, these figures aren't going to surprise me.
What then, even to F2, 500,000 a year. F1, 10 to 30 million a year.
Yeah.
But even the kart driving, I thought I had the numbers for that as well. Very, extremely expensive.
And I should be talking to lads. I have a good few friends who've like rallied in Ireland,
Yeah.
and it's just it's a money pit.
Yeah.
That you're like, the car is going to cost you tens of grand.
Yeah.
You have to pay an entry to everything.
Entry to everything.
The prize money for winning like a whole thing is
Yeah.
maybe your entrance fee, maybe a
Yeah.
little bit more, but the work you have to do on it, you're constantly spending huge. Like we're
Yeah.
so lucky, comedies what our pastime is,
Where you're-
full-time job, but because there's no real outlay. It's just
Yeah.
like find a hostel or a free bed you can stay on,
Mm.
or a couch or a floor, the money for pints, some food.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I was looking at the breakdown, even at the entry level for kart driving. Yeah, if you have your cart and you're like the cage and all that stuff covered, every race is, the entry fee, new set of tires, is going to cost you like a couple of hundred.
Yeah.
Fuel going to cost you a lot these days. And then everything, obviously, if you're fucking pushing your car to the max, brake pads, all the safety
Never mind that.
equipment.
You crashed that thing once.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's gone. But back to 1977, Tommy... his mother, I don't know if she was watching the races, but if she was, she's basically seeing him driving around in an extension for the house. It's just, there goes like a fucking
Must have been so good, though.
conservatory.
But that's another level of belief.
I
Like,
know,
you have to have
at this stage, he hadn't done anything.
That's what I mean. But to give him that kind of money, he must have been quite good.
But she wouldn't have known. Well, but he
People
gets
would
the
have
first
been-
car anyway, and he goes down, he starts showing off. So he said from those first races, he went in with the attitude, if smoke isn't coming off all four tires, then I'm not doing it right.
Mm-hmm.
And he started impressing. You're driving like a madman around the track, and people just tended to like get out of his way because he
yes.
knew that he's not going to flinch.
Bullied them into victory. Yeah.
Yeah, but he just drove it. He said in the first year he learned how to drive by pushing himself to the limit, which just means crashing a shit ton.
Mm-hmm.
In the documentary, he's talking about the early days, and he has lost his accent at this point. There's footage of him from the early races, and he's got a pure town. I'm over here
Hey,
racing, so I
hey.
am, hey,
Yeah.
pushing to the fucking limit. And now he's kind of like, because
One arm-
spoilers for the story.
One arm covered in sunburn from leaving it hanging out the
yeah,
window.
yeah. Pack of Carol cigarettes behind his ear somehow. But
He's after getting tennis elbow, just flipping lads going, hey,
Hey.
clack, clack.
Well, he spent the past 25 years in America, so he's got a very Americanized accent now. But there's interviews with his childhood friend Morris Roddy, and he's still pure town. And the two of them were talking about those early races, and like, I guess there's a theme going through this whole story as he climbs up through the levels of racing. It's a very elitist sport. And, he's a Dundalk man, he had to soften the edges. But then Morris is like, yeah, when you're talking to the press and all that, you have to soften the edges. But then you have to make sure to put the Dundalk accent back when you went back to the boys, or else they think you're a cunt.
Yes.
Yeah.
The McGregor idea.
Yeah. You can, yeah.
I am Conor McGregor. Hello, America. And then just...
Fucking red, you.
I've noticed that now earlier on about when there was that man outside our gaff screaming about that lad who owes him $3,000 for a car.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that was good
I
crack
do, that was
earlier on
good
today.
crack, yeah.
How Dublin people start talking, like start getting angry at a level like well, no, I'm not going to pick. I'm going to do the Dublin accent. It's
Do it.
insensitive. I'll do a Chinese one instead.
There you go.
Yeah. But they just the angrier they get, the more high pitched and quicker it becomes.
Don't you fucking talk.
Don't you be fucking
Yeah.
because it started by him being like, don't be giving me your sob stories. I don't want to be hearing your sob stories. It's $3,000 you owe me. It's fucking $3,000. It's like
Yeah.
a buzzsaw.
Yeah.
It's
just,
class.
that's it. Yeah. But, yeah, he's got that McGregor. Or who's the Northern Irish golfer? Is it Harrington?
Rory McIlroy. But he's from Money anyway. I think his accent is. He doesn't have
I know. Well, Davey had the theory that the northern accents in general are easier transmorphed into American accents. Because I remember hearing McIlroy after a wet week in America, and he was already like, "Good evening."
Yes.
They
but
think there's something. I don't know.
Nadine Coyle
Yeah.
from Girls Aloud
Yeah.
/ Nearly in 6.
Oh,
Remember that?
maybe when they were almost 7.
No. Actually, it would have been. Yeah, I think that was. We were gonna. Maybe
It was
that
already a band 7.
No, oh no. There's band 5.
There was
Remember?
7 as
Five
well.
and
They
Make
did a
It Get
TV show.
S Club 7.
Yeah.
That's not 7. 7's a movie.
What did you just call them?
S Club
Um,
Junior,
okay.
because they had that TV show as well.
They did, yeah.
Yeah. But Nadine Coyle, after she did that, that's a great episode. We should do it just on its own,
What?
or maybe just a snippet. Do you remember when she was like before she was in Girls Aloud, that giant, huge band?
Yeah.
She was in an Irish TV show that they were going to be like Louis Walsh's next band, and it's going to be like girls and guys all together singing songs, wearing white suits with spiky hair. And then she made it, and they were doing the interview right before at the very end of the show, and there's like, say your name and your age and all of that, and she's like, I'm Nadine Coyle, and then she just gives a date, and she stops in between going, oh no, what date did I just say? No, it's actually this. She was underage. She was too young to be in the competition, and she got all the way to the final and broke as they were doing the ending. It's like, you've made it so far. And she just had to not say her actual birthday.
Oh my god!
And she said her actual birthday, and it's the best decision she ever made. Because then that band just tanked and did nothing. And a year later, when she was old enough, she was just over in Girls Aloud.
And she'd lost the accent then.
Oh no, she still had the accent. Eventually,
Okay.
she moved to America. I think going out with like an American football player.
Yeah.
But she was back in the Saturday Night Show a couple of years ago, and she just got like pillar to post just abuse online for being like, you forgot where you came from.
Oh, listen. But well, back to Tommy. So Tommy, just like Nadine Coyle, Tommy was reading about how all the big Irish racers at the time, like David Kennedy, they were all heading over to England to race. So he decided he'd do the same, and he went over there at the end of 1978. So he's been racing for like a year, if even.
Mm.
He decided to head off to England for the big times. He said his first few months there were rough. For the junior races, you had to sign up at 9 a.m. and you couldn't race until about 5 p.m. So no food or drink until then. You're just sitting with your nerves the whole time. And he said he felt like that for the first 20 or so races until he won a race at the Nuremberg Ring.
The Nuremberg Rally.
Yeah, Nürburgring.
Do they call it the Nuremberg Rally?
No, they should do. You know Nürburgring?
The
racetrack in Germany where
yes.
Yeah. Nürburgring.
Nuremberg.
Racing's
one of the few I don't know much.
That's good for this episode.
But also a little bit.
But he won a race at Nürburgring, and from then on he knew he was as good as he thought he was.
Mm-hmm.
He was never nervous again. Nürburgring is one of those, you see it on like lads shitty Subarus. They'll have like the sticker on the back of the Nürburgring.
Because you can bring your car there and drive on it.
Yeah.
Pay a stupid fee.
You pay a stupid fee, but like, I remember my friend, I saw...
You can do the same in Mondello, and we could do that.
We should do that. It's only down the road. But I saw a car once with like the same, like the track thing, and it said underneath it, like, never been. There's no way those lads are actually, like, there's no way lads are bringing their shitty cars from Dundalk to Nürburgring to get the fucking... It's just, it's like stabbing your exhaust pipe with a screwdriver to make it sound like a rally car.
Yeah, hitting it with an axe pick.
Yeah.
For go faster holes.
But he's starting to believe in himself now. And Formula Ford is the first rung on the ladder for getting into F1.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is very confusing for me because the whole way through the documentary they kept saying Formula Ford, but it sounds like Formula 4. And there's obviously F3 and F2 and F1, so I assumed it was F4 the whole way through.
But it's not.
It's not. It's Formula F. Formula Ford.
Mm.
Yeah, but I think there is also an F4 somewhere. I don't know.
There's levels and like leagues to it, I guess.
Yeah.
Did you notice the other week when we were talking to Mustafa and he was asking me about like kickboxing, because there's a jiu-jitsu black belt comedian from up north, and he asked me about Muay Thai, and I was like, oh yeah, I had like a couple of amateur fights lined up, and then the pandemic hit, and so I've never done them. And he was like, amateur, Jesus, you must be like very good then, because there's category like C and B and A and then amateur and then the proper one. And I was like, yeah, let's say what I meant was like the amateur before C,
like real amateur.
Yeah, as in like just it's not even.
Yeah.
If people found out it was actually happening at the gym, there'd be licenses pulled. Like technically they call them smokers.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I'll let him just believe here for a minute.
Yeah, because I could see he was very impressed by what you were saying, and you were kind of like trying to play it down a little bit. Yeah. He's like, Jesus, you must be great. Amateur Muay Thai. Well, so he's in Formula Ford. So, yeah, it's the first rung of getting towards the end game being F1 racing. In Formula Ford, the big teams create the cars, they build the cars, which obviously costs a lot of money.
They sing the theme tune. But they're building and fielding the cars for the teams, and then racers come up and drive them. But generally, to race cars at that level, you have to pay a shit ton of money. Yeah.
Yeah, so this was a revelation for me going through this stuff. So you get to that level, I guess it is that they're designing these cars, but they're putting them out there as a sort of testing ground for new drivers, but you have to pay big money to get to race them.
You'll have your sponsors coming in on board.
Yeah.
Much like basically like a wealthy benefactor, like the arts back in the day in Italy.
Yeah.
Or like horse racing. But you need you need like a wealthy benefactor to do it for you. It's like anyone who's ever made
But it's a chicken and egg situation, because you need to be racing well to attract sponsors.
Why did the chicken
money
cross the road? Oh no, it's a Formula 1 race. Get him on.
There's a chicken on the road, Jesus. Well, regardless, wealthy benefactors. Tommy, he's from a very poor working class background in the town. He's not got any money coming in for this stuff. But Ralph Furman ran the Van Diemen Driving Company, which had won every major Formula Ford championship in England since 1977 up until... So he would have been... Yeah, he was there like early 1979, and they'd been winning every major England championship for the last 2 years, the Van Diemen Company. He was known for scouting talent. And after he saw Tommy, he knew he'd basically have to let him drive for free because he was so good, he didn't want him driving for anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
But that's pretty much unheard of at that stage. That, like, and I'm talking about big, like, I think it'd be like 20.
This is the like Ford. This is F4.
This is FF.
FF, yeah.
Formula Ford, yeah.
Yeah.
But at that level, you're still talking about, I think, paying like 20 to 30 grand a year just to race.
Yeah.
Like, regardless of all the other fees, just to be allowed to race in their car. But he sees Tommy, he's like, that man's so good, and I know he has no money, so he's not going to be able to pay this. I need to let him drive for free, or else someone else is going to take him up, and I'm going to start losing races.
Yeah.
But,
so what was the name of the company? His
Van Diemen.
Van Diemen. Okay.
Yeah. So
now, it is probably important to know, because I was looking into this last year when Formula 1 was very big for some reason. There's that documentary on Netflix, and like there was a big end to the season. It was interesting. It was neck and neck for the last couple of races, so a lot of people were watching.
Yeah.
And at the time, my dad has no interest, even though he's a mechanic and loves cars. He's no interest in Formula 1 at all. But then he was asking me one day, he's like, "What do you reckon it costs to do that?"
Yeah.
And he was like, "It must be like a million or so." I think I looked at it. It was like, I think the cars are worth like 20 million.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's in and around that, and then but all of those companies are writing it off. There's no one out there that's we just make Formula 1 cars. It's Mercedes who are making a bunch of money doing car stuff anyway. They have to write that off somehow.
Yeah.
To expense it that way.
Jaguar,
Yeah.
and then
Red Bull.
Yeah, you're getting sponsorship in to cover a lot of it, but there is an awful lot of money there that needs to be covered.
Yeah, but it's because it's huge companies who have an awful lot of money that need to filter it into something.
Yeah.
That, like Red Bull, they're a big team.
Yeah.
But they have a great system. Let's not get into the sports washing of Red Bull.
Well, the sports
marketing, sports marketing.
Sports marketing, you kind of forget that Red Bull is a drink at some point.
Yeah.
A drink that you can mix with shots of Buckfast to make Bucky bombs.
And their class.
But in 1980, at the age of 21, Tommy is now racing in the Formula Ford circuit for Van Diemen. And from the get-go, he's winning national races. And not only winning them, but like there's footage, I've seen clips and stuff of him in these races, and the commentators are just like, and it appears Byrne is out there on his own. Like he's ahead of...
Lapping lads.
Not lapping lads, but it's funny... You know when you like don't want to exaggerate, but you're like, he was ahead by 10 seconds. That doesn't sound like much, but in this world, he may as well be lapping lads. That is outrageous.
But as Vin Diesel said, it doesn't matter if it's by an inch or a mile.
Except it kind of does in this case, because people are seeing him beating lads by a lot, big margins in this sport, and they're like, well, he's going places. But he's still broke, so he's his own mechanic. When all of his other competitors are professional mechanics, he's just doing everything himself. He's his own pit crew at this stage. He's getting a free ride for the car, but he still can't afford any of the other add-ons to go with it.
Yeah.
But he's described as being like happy enough to be broke. I don't think that's true really for his character later on. But his friends described him as being like, happy to be broke. Kind of like...
people are happy to be broke until they make money. And you see how much better life is when you have a load of it, that you're like, I'm never going back. The only man who's ever been happy to go back or was okay with it was Rocky in Rocky 5. And that's even if you acknowledge that film's existence.
Yeah.
Which I don't.
I think it's from his friend's point of view, they're more like he was happy to mooch off them. So like there's a couple of interviews with his friends and they'd be like, you'd be the sort of man, you go to a restaurant, you'd all order food, halfway through the meal he'd be like, oh yeah, I have no money, so are you going to cover this? Or like his friend Morris was like, you'd wake up in the house, you know, you go out drinking with him the night before and he'd stay in your house and you'd wake up and he'd be walking around the house the next morning wearing a pair of trousers that you know are your trousers. So he's a moocher would be the polite way of putting it. But so he's living off the kindness of people, but he's also a very charismatic, very like big drinking, big figure, you know.
Yeah, he needs
people
his
like
patrons.
him.
He needs his
He needs his patrons.
Yeah, but like, you know, Llewellyn Davis had them.
Yes, we have them.
We have them.
Yeah.
But on actual Patreon, I guess.
Yeah. The Turtles had them. Donatello, Raphael, Leonardo, they all the patrons. So
nice.
in
I
his
don't know how I didn't get that instantly. That was like a joke tailor made for me.
Yeah. So after his first year with Van Diemen, he gained a reputation as a great driver, but also as a man for the pints, as well as the women.
You're going to tell me you could have went pro only for...
Well, we'll see. But so he's sort of gets a name for being a bit of a skirt chaser, a man about town.
Mm-hmm.
There's one clip of an interview where he was being asked, "Tommy, how do you get your girls?" And he said, "Sometimes I get them by the hips." He's a character.
He's a character.
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing now that you hear the old Dublin men, like not say old, like middle-aged Dublin men who just can't switch off.
Yeah.
That they're like, it's constant peppers of jokes.
Yeah.
There was a lot on First Dates, the Ireland there last year. It must have been last year when I was watching it. And he was just, you could see the woman was like, he's funny and charming. He would not shut the fuck up. That he was just, after the first 2 minutes of the date, you're like, she can't get one sentence out. Like she's trying to tell a story and she's just ignoring him.
Yeah.
Making constant jokes. Like, I just want to be able to talk for more than 5 seconds.
I know a few lads like that, and they're great. It's definitely born out of, I went to an old boys secondary school, and it's just that, like, putting up a fucking barrier and just having a response for everything and never letting anything real come out in case someone uses it against you somehow. I think a lot of Dublin lads, it left secondary school in a minute. Like, I know lads in their 30s who are still, like, just fucking quips and stuff, and on a night out, just like, this is class crack, and then the next day you're like, have you ever just shut the fuck up for a minute and said something proper?
This is when the tone of the
switch off.
The conversation changes, but they're not able to. So
that
night, someone's crying about like a girl that's just left them, and they're like, "Oh, how do I make this funny?"
Yeah.
Which fair is, we're no men to talk.
No, that's true. Yeah. Yesterday, you were involved with the photography of your friends got proposed, and you were involved in a very beautiful proposal ceremony.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't ask you one question about that until after we came back here and Lisa asked you about it. I was like, oh yeah, that was you never mentioned it either. You were just like straight to business.
I just
straight to comedy. We spent like 4 hours together, came back here, and she was like, what were you? Oh yeah, a once in a lifetime beautiful moment that you were a part of. It's like, oh yeah, that, I guess could ask you a question about that.
It was grand.
Instead of making zingers about comedy.
It was fun.
Anyway, he's a big man for the pints, a big man for the ladies. He's a short guy, not particularly attractive, but he's
soft
just like charismatic.
Soft with the ladies, hard with the men.
There you go, hard with the liquor. But in 1981, I know you don't know much about racing, but you might know the name Ayrton Senna.
Yes. Maybe the best sports documentary ever made.
The film Senna.
Yeah.
I looked into a bit of that for this.
He didn't exist. It's not actually true.
But Senna, I don't know. Yeah.
Did he say good things about Tommy?
Oh no, like Senna is Tommy's rival.
Oh.
Yeah. Now
wait, did he say bad things about Tommy?
I don't know if I should.
Don't ruin Senna for me. He's not coming after my boy Tommy.
No. So Ayrton Senna, he also joined Van Diemen, so the company that Tommy's racing for. He joins a year after Tommy. Both of them are coming up at the same time. So in a lot of the documentary, people are commenting like it's rare for anyone with this amount of talent to be going through Formula 1 racing, and this is a time when two of them are coming up at the same time, and they're both like on par with each other. But Ayrton Senna was nicknamed Fast Man. He was a Brazilian and pretty much the opposite of Tommy in terms of like his background and childhood. He was the son of a millionaire from Brazil. They're around about the same age, but whereas Tommy had to like commit some mild bank fraud to get his car, Ayrton had been learning how to drive in the family Jeep on their massive farm.
Yeah.
Just different folk.
Yeah, just in case anyone was wondering, he is white Brazilian.
Oh, yeah. He's like one of those classic millionaire Brazilians from the 1970s that you hear about. Well, I suppose the 1980s now. But like Senna was a rich boy. And Tommy had a bit of a chip on his shoulder about wealth because he had to kind of earn anything.
/ take out loans for extensions.
Yeah.
Yeah, you really need to earn that. Like, what is that equivalent? Is 100 grand? Or way more?
Way more, probably. Way more. But I guess he felt like he had to... It does seem a bit odd because it seems like it really is just pay to play. Like if you can be shit, but if you have enough money, you can drive at the bottom levels. Now you do need to
you could do the bottom levels.
at the bottom levels. Yeah. But Formula Ford, it seems like you could get into if you had money. He had to prove that he was a great driver, and then they'd like reluctantly let him do it for free because he was so good.
Yeah.
Whereas Senna just came along. Now, Senna's obviously very good, but he just paid and was straight into the same level that Tommy had to like claw for. I think a lot of it is he does have a chip on his shoulder about money because he's surrounded by very rich
It's
people.
like the grass arena all over again.
It is the grass arena all over again. But
Car chess.
yeah. So the two of them are now racing for Van Diemen. But there's two junior categories in Formula Ford. Senna had started a year after him, so he was in Formula Ford 1600, and Tommy had just moved into Formula Ford 2000. But they're both dominating their respective categories.
Okay. Is Senna in the higher one?
Senna's in the lower one.
He's in okay.
Because he started a year after
Yeah,
Tommy. Yeah. But they're both dominating those.
I feel this is a really. I'm getting a feeling in my gut. Like I'm feeling awful right now, just because I know how well he's done in his career
Yeah.
and his life,
Yeah.
and because that documentary is amazing.
Yeah.
And then
I bet is Tommy even mentioned in the documentary?
No.
Yeah.
If he is, or the. No, I don't think.
I don't think he probably isn't.
If I did, I would. I don't remember it now. It's years since I've seen it.
Yeah.
But I'm getting the feeling of like when someone, like if a friend texts you and they're like, "Can we go for a pint?" And I'm like, "No, what?
It's bad news for the boys.
What's going on? You're not dead again, are you?"
I know because I've read through like Senna's. I just wanted to do a bit of background for him. Tommy's not mentioned in his Wikipedia at all, but from the documentary, like they were peers and rivals for this whole period. But anyway, listen,
you'd know all about it, Frank.
But
this is a one-way rivalry.
So, well, no, because in 1981, Tommy's just won the UK and European Championship that year in the top bracket of Formula 4. And it was a great first year for Senna. But as Tommy would point out, Senna's basically just doing the same thing he'd done the year previous. But because, well, Tommy would say it's because he's rich. There's much more fanfare about it. He's getting in all the news. He's done all these amazing things. But he's basically just done the same thing Tommy had done a year previous.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the first year, Senna dramatically announces that he's quitting racing and heading home to work on the family business. He was getting pressure to go home and work in Brazil. But he said he was disenchanted with the idea that you had to pay to race in Formula Ford, which was probably born out of the annoyance of Tommy getting to do it for free. So the two of them are now the two, Van Diemen's two head boys in the two leagues.
Mm-hmm.
But Senna is paying 20 to 30 grand a year to race, and Tommy's getting to do it for free.
Yeah.
But Senna is also a millionaire and Tommy is broke as shit.
Yeah, but you don't get rich by giving it away.
That's it. So they say that I don't know. The thing, the documentary implies that that's the reason he probably got that idea in his head. That he suddenly disenchanted. Why would a millionaire be disenchanted by paying 20 to 30 grand after race when everyone else is doing it except the one guy who's doing better than him?
Yeah.
But
you never know. It's like son of a millionaire is very different than being a millionaire.
Yeah, when I say millionaire, I think he's like multi.
Oh, then do you know what? Fuck.
Yeah, big businessman in Brazil.
But it's interesting because it's like you'll find this now with a lot of sports stars, especially in the very modern generation of the last like 15 to 20 years, and it's definitely going to like multiply now as in the next couple of years. That like if your parents have money,
yeah,
and they're willing, if they have an interest in the thing that the kid has an interest in, and they're talented in it, and they put the money into it, you're at nothing trying to compete with them. That say like Rory McIlroy at it since he was a child.
Yeah,
parents had money. Yeah, best trainers, best coaches, best everything. He's gonna do really. You're gonna need to be a once in a generational talent, and then still get a lot of luck to get anywhere near that level.
And this is the Tommy Byrne story.
Yeah, but Lewis Hamilton was kind of the same. Like his parents would have had enough to put him through. You know, you have videos of him like, go karting, and then all the way, from the age of 4 or 5, and all the way through. You're like, a lot. Not, I don't know if he's like a millionaire or whatever.
Yeah.
But the fact that the family would have had enough money to be like, oh yeah, he's 13. Let's spend 2 or 3 grand on whatever. You're like, most people aren't getting that.
No, this is it. I mean, we've been talking about in the real world, the Irish universal basic income for artists was announced there yesterday. So basically they've randomly selected 2,000 applicants to give them €300 plus €320 a week for the next 3 years just to like go off and do art. If you have a sort of net safety, you're going back through history, like a lot of the greatest mathematical minds, especially going back to like the 1800s, a lot of the great scientists and stuff, they're all from rich families because they're the only people who could afford the luxury of not having to worry about dying of starvation. And then it's not coincidence that it's just like the rich and wealthy happen to like make all these discoveries and great art. It's because they have the fucking time to
go and do
chance
it. Yeah. I was like, you'll find like most comedians that have made it. Usually, the chances are that, like, especially American comedians anyway, and a lot of ones in England, you've got patrons that are called your parents.
Yeah.
Most people world over that are successful, because we can use this to make ourselves feel better about our place in life now. Most people that are successful in any strain of life, it's because their parents were rich.
Well, there's a quote from Stephen Jay Gould about I am somehow less interested in the weight and convolutions of Einstein's brain than in the near certainty that people of equal talent have lived and died in cotton fields and sweatshops. Which is true. There's a lot of people who just have fucking natural talent or whatever won't even get a chance to realize that they're talented because they're dead.
Yeah.
But Tommy, he gets his chance. So Ayrton Senna, the rich boy, he throws his toys out of the pram, heads on home to Brazil. After a really good start he finishes the 1600 season top of the league, does great, walks off, and leaves Van Diemen in a difficult position because the Formula Ford Festival, which is known as the Marlboro World Cup at the time, sponsored by Marlboro cigarettes, back when men could be fucking men and smoke cigarettes on the track covered in oil. The Formula Ford Festival is like it's a massive event in racing, and Senna was supposed to race in it for Van Diemen. He drops out all of a sudden, so they turn to Tommy to race for them instead of Senna, and they get him to race in Senna's car. I think Senna had the better of the two of them because Senna's paying, even though Tommy's getting a free ride, he's not obviously getting like the best of the best. Yeah. And Senna was going to be the first pick. He's in the best car. He heads off. They give it to Tommy, and Tommy fucking smashes the festival.
Ho ho!
Wins the race for them, which means he gets an opportunity to move up to F3.
So they just gave him Senna's car.
Yeah.
That's class.
Well, now by Senna's car, it's like it's their car. It's a Van Diemen car, but Senna's car.
And he's been paying on lads to work, like the mechanics to work on it. So it is a better car.
And he's been racing it all year. Yeah, and it's his. Yeah, it's the better one.
Because that's a great, like, think about that. You're like, ultimatums.
Yeah.
I'm leaving, or else fucking you pay for me. And they're like, all right, fuck off.
Yeah.
Can I have my car? No, we're giving it to your rival.
Yeah, the reason you left, he's going to race in your car. And he smashed it. Yeah. And now he gets to go into Formula 3. Isn't that what you wanted to do, Senna? So after the race, I don't know what sort of a picture we've painted as Tommy so far, but I think in the documentary they do a better job of, like, he is, even by his own admission, a bit of a dick. He's very egotistical. He's a bit of a bollocks. Like, after he wins the race, the team's awarded 100 bottles of champagne, is tradition, I guess. Tommy,
sorry lads, we only got 2 bottles of champagne.
Well, he argues
98 deep.
He argues for all of them. He's like, give me the 100. I won the race. I get the 100. And the team manager or whatever is like, it's our car, it's our team or whatever. He's like, give me the fucking 100. So eventually he settles for 50, and he does with the 50 what he'd planned to do with all of them. If he got just fucking waste them.
Idiot.
On purpose.
They're worth so much money.
He doesn't give a shit.
But he has such a chip on his shoulder about money.
Yeah, but I think I've
got questions when we get to the latter part of the man's life.
Yeah.
When we get to, he's still alive, right?
Yeah.
When we get to what he's up to currently, I'm going to have a lot of questions about throwing away 3 to 4 grand. I don't know how much is champagne even?
Like 50 bottles of champagne. He says they drank enough to get drunk off of and then just sprayed the rest of it over the floor.
Google cost of champagne right now.
Champagne, €20 a bottle.
Not Prosecco. I said champagne.
There's too many of them. I doubt they're handing out the €20 bottles from Lidl at the Formula.
I imagine champagne has to be the Champagne region.
Yeah, you're telling me there isn't some guy who like bought a fucking shack in Champagne so he can make cheap wine and sell it to idiots. So what
about a not your mama's champagne?
Yeah,
or like a hardcore. We'll call it champagne. And it's just knuckles on the front of it. Champagne.
No, champagne. SHAM.
Yes.
Pain.
Champagne.
Yes, from the Champagne region.
2 knuckles, but in one of the hands there's a lit cigarette.
And he's got knuckle tattoos that say champagne. There you go.
Yeah, and
excellent.
And a thumb ring.
Yes. And knuckle dusters. But well, because he's got that sort of chip on his shoulder. Because I guess
thumb ring and knuckle dusters.
Yeah.
I didn't want to leave him out.
Yeah.
My poor little thumb. He needs some decor.
I guess there's two types of like having a chip on your shoulder about wealth. There's the guy who would take the 50 bottles and go and sell them and get the money, and then there's a guy who'd like just destroy them because he sees it as like it's just the fucking fancy notional.
But then complain about like
Oh, yeah.
to harbor like a deep.
Yeah, he doesn't like the fancy things in life
Mm-hmm.
because he can't afford them.
Apart from driving in one of the most
Yeah,
one of the most
one of the most
expensive
vehicles,
vehicles
yeah,
ever
sure.
made for that.
But he just wants to drive fast cars. But anyway, so a year later, Senna comes back, shock surprise, and he's pretty pissed off with Tommy. Partially because Tommy, took his opportunity, drove his car, got to opportunities to move up to Formula 3, which is what Senna wanted. But also partially because when he got back, he realized that Tommy had just been lifting parts from Senna's car to repair his own. And I'm honestly not sure if it's like his personal car or his race car. But in the Tommy's... In his mind, he defends it as saying that Senna's gone. He's never supposed to come back. Like, he quit racing or whatever. But he's just, like, driving around, and anytime he got a puncture, he just swapped the tires out in the car. Anytime he, like, broke a windscreen, he just, like, swapped the windscreens out. So when Senna comes back, his car is in fucking bits. And he said that, he wasn't too happy about that. They had a bit of a falling out.
Oh, that's amazing.
Mhm.
So there's just been the idle car waiting for a year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what does he expect?
Yeah, but like in fairness, he was not. He left racing. He left the country.
Yeah,
I'd say Tommy probably knew he was coming back and so, but
no, he definitely didn't.
he'd have to. But anyway, he fleeced his car. But so they have a big fall.
He loves Robin. You should have known that.
Yeah,
he
yeah.
loves Robin.
But they had a big fall night there.
Robin from the rich.
Yeah.
Keeping for yourself.
But doesn't matter. Tommy's on the rise.
I don't know. I'd say it'll come back to him. He's after burning a bridge there.
He's named Irish Sports Star of the Year in 1981. He's awarded the Texaco Sports Award around the same time. So in the documentary, it's kind of peppered with interviews, him meeting up with old friends. He won so many trophies and so many awards. He just kind of left them with friends.
Oh, no.
Yeah, but it's him going back. Like, there's interviews with him going back to them. And your man, Morris Roddy, again, like his Dundalk man. He's kind of like so he's showing the.
They've sold them all, haven't they?
No, they still have them. So
okay. That's what that was my own no was every sports story you've ever heard.
No, it's kind of it again goes back to him being a bit of a dick because he goes. There's a scene. Morris goes into his garage and he climbs up into the attic and he's getting the old trophies out and he's handing them down to Tommy and Tommy's looking at them being like, I thought you would have kept better care of them. And Morris just like genuinely looks a bit hurt and he's like, Matt, you didn't even know what they fucking were. Like he's genuinely like it seems like he just fucking gave them to him when he left the country, and he was slagging him for not like polishing them every day. And then later on, he goes back and chats to the guy who has the Marble World Cup medal, and he's like, "Oh, you took good care of it, better than some I can mention." And he's just like. But he genuinely hadn't the fucking note. Like, your man's handing them then the trophies and he's like, what's this one? Oh, yeah, the time I won that giant prestigious award. But he didn't have a fucking clue what they were, and he's just getting bitchy about him not polishing them or whatever.
Yeah. You'd be surprised, though, about the amount of, like, sports stars that don't give a shite about any of that.
Yeah.
Because, like, to have that...
But you can either not give a shit about it, or you can't then not give a shit about it and then give it out to him for not taking care of it.
I imagine it's like a thing of the later you get in life, once your career's already over, or once you've gotten out of that, like, uber competitive mentality. Because the reason why a lot of people give it away or throw it away is, like, they don't want any trinkets to remind themselves of success so they can stay hungry and keep working at the same level that they'd already had.
That's why you take a look around this room. You'll see no comedy trophies in here.
Yeah. If you go back to my room down in Carlow, 4th place, Carlow under 14 football championship, Division C.
Nice.
Nearly won the semi-final.
Nearly made the semi-final.
Nearly won the semi-final.
From the quarter-final.
Nearly won the 3rd place playoff. A hard pill to swallow.
It is, yeah.
I'm glad they made up the... What colour do you think a 4th place medal is?
It's a pwetter.
I couldn't tell you, Kevin, because I don't pay attention to that stuff. I'm too focused on future success.
It's on my wall, but every time I walk into my room, I close my eyes from the shame.
Oh, no, you want to see the abuse I give my mother every time I go home? You could have fucking washed it.
Jason, you don't even know where the fucking medal was.
Jason, that's not a medal. That's cardboard we cut out for you to stop you from crying. Yeah, I don't care. I'm too focused on the future.
With Tommy, he's focused on the future. He's moving up. So Tommy's moving up to F3. Next stop, F1. I assume there's F2. I don't really know.
Skipping that.
Yeah, for some they talk about it a lot. That like F3 is the scouting ground for F1. I don't know. But I guess F2 is runner up. Who cares?
Nah, you'll find that a lot as well. If there's like a prodigious talent,
Yeah, you want to get them earlier.
you get them early and you bring them in because like Formula One, you get 2 drivers,
Yeah.
and then sometimes a third as a backup. I guess, but yeah, if you can bring people in like that, like a redshirt freshman in American sports, get them in early. Even give them a year just to back up and get ready, and then throw them straight in. Going, if you've already won F4 and F3, you're probably
there's no point waiting till you win F2. Get him, before the other guys get him. But he's determined not only to win F3 but to dominate it, so that the F1 guys will take him on. But the costs go up with F3. So does the prize money. But he's basically relying on each win to pay for the next race.
right.
So, you're talking about keeping yourself hungry. He's as hungry as it gets. Like,
But
he
so
literally
he's-
can't
Stop
lose a race.
throwing champagne around then.
But I know what you mean. It's like, but the champagne is not coming anywhere close to paying for these
Oh
races.
no, God no! But you know what? It would be an extra couple of grand each win to just put for that win. Just put
But
away.
it's the
You need
same
it.
because they
I
sell
don't
the
know.
champagne or
I'm
whatever.
30 or 40 years later giving him financial advice.
Yes. But I like it's the same as saving the champagne, that kind of idea, because he's kind of like, I guess we started off, and back in Dundalk, he's a local boy done good. He's over there racing with the best of them, and they're raising money and making cake sales. And when he gets into F3, apparently they're still at that stuff. So like they're going back home and like getting 200 or 300 quid, doing a whip around, charity fun run and all that stuff, and get a big check and be like, we're 300 quid to think.
That's
The races are causing hundreds of
I was gonna say,
thousands of
that's
euro at this point.
one
Hundreds of
thread,
thousands of pound.
one thread on one tire.
Oh yeah, like it's a drop in the ocean, but he's still doing it. But like, I don't know.
It keeps the town active.
It does, yeah. Like, I don't know if I'm going to assume they didn't know how
They
small.
No, but
Yeah.
it's good to whip up like morale.
It is, yeah. But also at that stage, let the lads have their money. There's no point taking a tenner off a man who needs it just to fucking throw. Because he's basically at the time he's
That's
racing
a
for.
very nihilistic way of looking at it.
But no, because at the time he's racing for Murray Taylor. So
Mm.
Murray Taylor is having to pit 99.9% of the money. Why not just let him do 100% and leave the Dundalk man alone, who's taking a tenner out of his children's mouth to give to Tommy Byrne?
That is fair, but
Yeah.
also like we were talking about the other day with sports in general. You were saying that you don't understand soccer, how men just get that involved in it.
Yeah.
It like upsets their whole week. You just don't get sports.
Yeah.
Because for that man to have put like a couple of quid into that, he then feels
He's won.
he's part of it. And
Yeah.
he knows that he hasn't drove the car himself, but he's been there, he's supporting, he's helping, he gets to go on, Tommy. And then he gets to live vicariously through another person. Like how every
Yeah.
time Paul Gammon scores a goal in the Northern Conference,
Yeah.
I feel like I'm scoring goals in the 6th level of
You're-
6th degree of
You're dead right.
English football.
Definitely in the 1980s when there was mass emigration and unemployment and poverty in Ireland, it's definitely good that he was going back to Dundalk.
It's not good
and
for it.
taking money
but
off people
those-
so they could pretend in their fantasy lives. John, we can't light the fire this Christmas. The house is freezing cold. Shut up, woman. I'm pretending I'm driving the Monte Carlo Grand Prix. I've got money on Tommy.
Fire.
He's not just doing it for himself. He's doing it for all of us. Tom,
There's
little
no,
Sean's dead.
well, look,
Good.
There's no smoke without fire, and Tommy's burning rubber.
Tommy's burning rubber. Let's just huddle around the fire and pretend. Just think of how fast Tommy's driving with our money. Meanwhile,
Yeah.
Tommy's probably smashing bottles of champagne.
Yeah, he
on
probably
the
is.
side of the road.
But it's that thing of it allows men to feel
Yeah.
and feel comfortable and open, like having emotions, even
Yeah.
emotions of happiness.
Well, what they
That
should be
it's something
doing
that
is just
sport-
fucking
sport,
providing
It allows people to do that. And I say
Yes.
people, lads,
lads.
who can't do it in any other way.
Yeah.
And it's fair play. He fucking probably saved an entire generation of men there.
By killing an entire generation of children.
Do you it'll keep the pension age down.
Yeah.
Was your dad around? Were you talking to him about Tommy Byrne?
Yeah, I said it's about my parents, and it didn't really. I can't remember what he said. He said that he
They
knew
were
him, but then
"That
he used
bastard. My father gave every shilling the family
Yeah.
had.
Yeah. They would have been maybe a bit too young by a couple of years. But no, he said that he knew him, and then he was chatting about him for a while, and then he said a different name, so I'm not entirely sure he did know who he was. But yeah, I mean, they would have been in and around. No, I think they probably would have been too young by a little bit for this.
Yeah.
Because we'll see as this story goes on. Senna is basically like.
Well, did I tell you I saw with Dad a few months ago, and I was asking about like, do you remember like the Beatles?
Yeah.
Or like even post Beatles or any of like any music from the 60s, 70s, 80s.
Yeah.
And he was like, I didn't have time for any of that kind of stuff.
Sure wasn't I dating your mother and raising you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was well before that. I was like, so
Yeah.
what were you doing with your time? And he
Yeah.
was like, just out having the crack. I'm like, that is better.
Yeah.
That is, instead of having like
But
conversation.
you'd still have some awareness of like.
No, fucking none.
Yeah.
Like, it was Neil Diamond,
Yeah.
the Dubliners,
Yeah.
and go fuck yourself.
But anyway, Tommy, he's driving F3 now. He's driving for Murray Taylor. They're doing whip arounds back home in Dundalk. But Murray Taylor is very much fielding the majority of the money here. He's filling in the blanks when Tommy couldn't do it. But Tommy's leading the championship. Like at one stage, he's leading by 33 points. So there's
A
basically
number he couldn't pronounce.
a number he couldn't even pronounce. But there's a back and forth after every race where Murray's like, we're going to have to pull the plug, Tommy. Like we have no money. There's Tommy's bringing in nothing. He's bringing £200 or £300 for a race that's costing a couple of 100,000 every
But he's
time.
winning.
Yeah, but that's so he can't stop. So, but every time Murray Taylor's like, we're going to have to let you go, and Tommy's like, all right, you do know I'm ahead by 33 points, and they're like, one more race,
Yeah.
and then you're gonna have to start bringing in some money. I don't know. The sponsorship money, I'm not sure. I don't know. Basically, Murray is having to fucking pay a shit ton of money. But eventually he comes
No one
up,
wants to sponsor. I'm not sure,
yeah,
but I assume the drunken Irishman.
probably,
Yeah.
or like because in terms of he's
But
a great
there's-
racer, he's not a great spokesman.
But and also like I assume at this stage the world hasn't gone the world hasn't gone fully global yet.
Yeah, that's a
So
good phrase.
nowadays you'd be able to find someone who wants to be linked to whatever sports are for whatever reason.
Yeah.
But back then it's
In the
There's no one from-
1980s, there's many reasons why people wouldn't want to be linked to a vagabond from Dundalk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
who's like a crazy man behind the wheel. The English aren't going to want to sponsor him.
Yeah.
Maybe you can get money in from America, but it has to be Irish Americans from over there.
Yeah.
What company is it? Like maybe you try and get Guinness to sponsor it, but even they're probably like,
Them
"Do you know
Protestants
what?
at that time.
Yeah,
He should have just got sponsored by the IRA.
or Harp.
It would have been sponsored by the IRA, and it was just like iguanas, real
Reptiles
estate
Association.
associations. Yeah, yeah. I just came into a lot of money from the Iguanas Reptile Association. And this fancy balaclava to wear on the racetracks. It's made of real snakeskin, but so Taylor, he's sick of.
This car is the bomb.
Yeah, there's a bomb planted under all the other cars.
Only one car has taken off from the starting line today.
Well, so Taylor comes up with a great idea. A great idea to get money for the races. He says he comes up with the idea that McLaren can sponsor Tommy in F3 in exchange for getting first dibs on him when he progresses to F1.
Yes,
There
class.
you go.
Thinking ahead.
Thinking ahead. So Tommy met with Ron Dennis of McLaren. And Ron starts asking him questions about his family, about his background, which Tommy's like, fucking, this is where the quote about his father comes from. But he's basically like, what's this got to do with, I'm a class racer. What does it matter what my background is?
I assume it's like the same as when you go to buy a mortgage.
Yeah.
That they're like, we want your Revolut account.
Yeah.
We want your post office. We want your credit union. Why is there €100 going out at Friday at 12 o'clock at night every weekend?
To Pilser.
Yeah. To arts and crafts. What
Arts
does
and
that
crafts.
mean?
And a picture of a snowman and an emoji of a winky face.
It's a snowflake and a roll of banknote. I don't know what you mean. Sir.
That's my accountant.
Yeah. I imagine they're asking him questions a bit like, we're about to invest probably 25, 50 million in you.
Yeah.
Are you a lunatic?
Yeah. And a lot, yeah, so that's,
Because if you're not, we don't want any part of this business.
so there's a lot of, this is where it gets a bit muddy and it's kind of like,
Muddy on an F1 track.
but is it classist? Is there elements of race in it? Ron Dennis is an idea of just like, clean cut, British Formula One drivers, and Tommy's a really good driver, but he's from a poor background. Tommy, he says at the end of the meeting, he asks Ron, "Is there any money for him?" And Ron replies that all the money's tied up in R&D at the moment. And Tommy says, "What's that?"
No.
Yeah. And in the thing, you can be like, he's like, that's kind of the moment I knew.
Yeah, that's the Michael Fassbender 3.
Yeah. He's like, this doesn't look good for me.
Yeah.
So yeah, they don't get sponsored by McLaren. He reckoned.
No, but that's after sparking a thing in my head.
Yeah.
I remember one of my dad's friends was he had never
Sponsored by McLaren.
Marlboro, more like.
You're doing some great work down there.
But yeah, he was working as a mechanic, and then he ended up getting like a solid job as what's the word, a water surveyor, or the people who run the water in every county, like whatever the job.
Marine.
Nah, I've been calling him a waterman for a few years.
Yeah, waterman. Yeah.
But he's in charge of like all of the the reservoirs, and like of making sure if anything goes down in the middle of the night, you're like, he'd wake up and go and do that. I remember him saying that he went in for the interview.
Yeah.
And he'd said that he was like, he just decided, someone kept telling him, go in for this interview, and he kept saying no, and then he was just like, fuck it, do you know what? And he's like, it's this time, I could and he just said, I'm going to take a lunch break, and he went down in his work clothes.
Yeah.
And he went down and sat in, did the interview, and they were asking him all these different questions about everything, and he was like, geez, I'm actually getting a good lot of these things right, transferable skills.
Yeah.
Doing mechanics, different stuff, pressure, whatever the fuck. And then they'd asked him some question about like, what would the regular water pressure on this thing you've never seen before be? And he just went, I have absolutely no idea what that means.
Yeah.
What's the next question? And then he did the rest of the interview and it went well.
Yeah.
And at the very end he was like, just for my own, what would the regular pressure on that thing be?
Yeah.
And then they called him up 2 hours later, and he was the only person that had not flubbed a line.
Yeah.
And they were like, yeah, we just want someone who's honest, who's not taking the fucking piss.
Yeah.
Because if you're willing to take the piss now in the interview,
yeah.
if you don't know what the answer is,
and it's
then,
a crunch time, pressure
you're
situation,
just going to guess or not know, or just be like, just one man who can actually put his hand up and go, I don't know what that means.
There you go.
There are no stupid questions.
Yeah. Fair play to him.
Yeah.
Now
he didn't get the job.
No,
No, he did. He did. He said it's a very soft job now. He said it's dead handy.
Soft water.
Oh.
No. Well, Tommy didn't get the job. He asked the soft question, but what he and like he kind of feels again.
Soft question. Is your wife single?
Yeah.
It was probably the R&D thing that caught me.
Yeah, he didn't talk about the stuff he'd said before that. But I mean, this is a chip on the shoulder kind of thing. He reckons it's because of his background or whatever. But he also reckons that they probably would have went for him other than Senna is coming up just behind him and is like similar, not as good, but close enough, and from a much more palatable background for what they want, that they can afford to pass on him.
Yeah.
But this doesn't help his mental state in what I'll generously refer to as his pinting years. So,
is it pinting with an apostrophe at the end?
Yeah, pinting apostrophe. He's over in London. He's sessioning with people. So he's got his patrons now.
Champagne pyramids.
Well, he's got his patrons now, but his patrons are kind of like from the seedy underbelly. Because again, he's like a gregarious pinting man from Dundalk. People like to be around him. People with money are willing to like put money into keeping his races going. But
they should have fucking supported him a bit more when he could have actually.
Well, they did. They are pretty much like
set up a GoFundMe. This would never have to be a problem.
But in the documentary, they're kind of like, and he felt like he kind of had to drink with them because he owed them for the money. They don't mention that he fucking loved sessioning and like
pints.
He was like big into drug. Like it's kind of skirting around it, but I think they're implying that the money was coming from maybe mob background, or like big lads, mob guys who have money, or like crime guys who have money.
Yeah,
not unlike a certain Conor McGee, possibly people from backgrounds that wouldn't be the Kinnahan gang might be funneling money into him to pay for stuff.
Nah, do you know what?
Yeah.
I'd say whatever involvement he'd have with any of that, he'd already made so much.
Yeah.
They don't need to help him.
But it's the kind of idea of like those kind of crowds are attracted to that sort of sports star. And the same with like an up and coming Dundalk
Oh no,
Formula
for
racer.
sure.
they're-
There's a reason currently. I don't think
Yeah.
Tyson Fury is not allowed in America at the moment
Yeah.
because of his links with the kind of crime cartel.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. But of course they want to be around. 'Cause
Sure.
They've got loads of money.
Yeah.
They've got a lot of presence, a lot of power. Somehow in the space of about 2 years, you can go from not doing any boxing management to owning 80%
Yeah.
of the fighters in the world. You're like, yeah, just wonder how they did that.
But it's just so Tommy's not getting money from
Those numbers are not.
Yeah.
It's
Don't be
it's
fact-checked.
95%.
And it was 1.5 years. But Tommy's not getting money from the fancy boys at McLaren, but he's getting money from, the seedy underbelly of London. They're bankrolling him, and he's kind of getting more into the drink and drug side of things. But doesn't stop him as a driver. 1982 comes round.
If anything, it helped.
Yeah, it didn't seem to, like, he talks a lot about driving hungover. Doesn't seem to stop him at all.
Yeah, it was that like a Denzel Washington flight kind of hungover.
Yeah.
Like John Goodman just turns up every time Tommy's about to hop in the car and going, I got you, kid. And
Yeah.
sort of, somehow I'm doing better than even before.
You gotta land the plane between the lines. I fucking can't wait that long. There you go. But so he starts off the season 1982 pretty well, but then they bring in another driver who's paying. So Murray Taylor brings in another driver who's paying. So it's a Senna situation all over again.
Now, just to really quickly, did Van Diemen at all? Did you check this at any point?
Yeah.
Did they ever think about marketing Tommy? Van Diemen,
Yeah,
his land.
yeah,
We all know what that is.
yeah,
Place for criminals.
yeah.
A lot of those Irish. And they didn't once think about going fucking.
All right, you Aussie cunts. One of your boys is doing good. Send a couple of didgeridongos back home to keep him racing.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know.
just market him as the criminal, the bad boy of Formula One. Like, did you ever see Blackball?
I think
The
this
bad
is,
boy of bowls.
This is before the time when like a bad boy would have been allowed.
Oh yeah.
I think this is a time when a bad boy was just like a bad boy and they don't like him. I don't think you could market someone as being like he's rough around the edges. He's a bit.
No, that's always been a thing. John McEnroe in tennis.
Yeah. When was that?
80s.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good point.
There's George Best.
Yeah, he's referred to as the George Best of Formula One a lot.
I mean, fairness, he's from
Yeah.
Border County.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Does he have long hair?
Did he steal another man's liver and then ruin it and get an airport named after him? But so they bring in, it's the same situation as last time. Murray Taylor brings in another racer, but that racer's paying, so they get the best car. Tommy gets put into a worse car, and he starts slipping down the ranks. So Murray and the team maintain that Tommy's lost it. He's pinting too much, he's doing too much drugs, he's lost his edge, but Tommy's certain that it's the car that's fucked.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually it comes to a head and he threatens to quit unless they put him into a new car. And and he quits. He walks away. But
So they're going to give him a new car.
no, he's like, give me a new car or I'm leaving. They're like, I'm not giving you a new car. This man's
Oh, he
paying
does, okay.
hundreds of thousands for the good car. You're still paying nothing. We have to go with him. And then you're out doing fucking drugs and drinking the head of yourself every day. And so he quits. Nothing to fall back on. No money, no savings, no nothing. But he calls their bluff and they call him back and give him another car.
Yes.
And once he gets the other car, well, like he's talking.
That
to
must be an anxious wait of crack
Yeah.
your knuckles.
yeah, just sitting by the phone.
Yeah.
Any second now.
They'll be back.
Oh yeah.
What is
Yep,
it?
yep, yep.
You're back. It's 10% of the original offer. You've signed it up for 10 years.
So when he comes back and again, like he reckons the team probably hates him at this stage. Like he's just seen as a spoiled brat who's thrown his weight around to get.
Which is
car.
exactly what he is.
No, but they keep saying that he's past it. He's the reason he's not doing it. It's not because of the car. It's because he's shit.
Well,
He's
they're
gone too
not
far.
going to blame the car.
But as soon as he gets a new car, starts winning the league again.
Well,
as soon as they put him in a proper car again, he goes on to win the British F3 Grand Prix, leading by over 20 seconds.
Now that
Yeah. Like
I love this
outrageous.
man.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like
Get him more drink. Get him more drugs.
because it's like
more champagne to waste.
it's that point in the documentary. It's like, and then he took it. He was one of the best, but he couldn't stay away from the drinking drugs. And because they're seeing he's like showing up hungover, he's annoyed about the McLaren thing. He's not taking it seriously. They move him into a different car. He starts slipping down the ranks. He's losing. He's blaming the car, but they're like, Tommy, come on, you're fucked. You're showing up hungover the whole time. It's clearly that. He quits. They're like, fuck, okay, we need another driver. Get him back in. Get him a better car. He wins the Formula 3 Grand Prix by 20 seconds. And he's not slowing down on the drinking drugs either.
And he doesn't stop. He keeps going around.
And
One more lap. He's lapping lads who haven't finished it.
And again, this is like, 20 seconds seems like in racing.
No,
that
it's
is
so much.
outrageous.
Yeah.
And they're just like, well, okay, we can't do anything. He's class.
I'm getting that feeling again now.
Yeah.
Of like, because everything's going well. You're about to bring me down.
No, he's up now. So this is the one that the Formula 1, the F1 people look at as, if you're doing well in that, they'll start to consider you for the F1. If you win by 20 seconds, they're fucking, they're paying attention to that. So he gets picked up. Well, he gets asked by the Theodore team to come drive for them for the last 6 races of that year. McLaren also asked him to come and test drive for them, which is fairly unheard of, apparently.
Wait, what?
So the Formula 1 teams, Theodore asked him to come and drive.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were saying a different Formula 3 team.
No, Formula 1.
Yeah.
From his results in that race, even though the season isn't finished yet, they're like, will you come and drive our car for the last 6 races
in a
of this
Formula
season?
1 car.
In a Formula 1 car.
Yeah. And then McLaren
asked him to come and test drive for them, but he turns it down because he's got a sure thing with Theodore. They're asking him to
which
drive.
is like they've been offered, if you sponsor him now, you'll have first dibs on him.
Yeah.
And then when there's another team offered him an actual car, they're like, you can come and test for us.
Yeah.
You're not. This man has a chip on his shoulder.
Yeah. No, that definitely factors into it. It was like, yeah, you go fuck yourself. I wasn't good enough for you a couple of months ago because of the R&D thing and because I tried to fuck your wife.
Yeah.
And the receptionist. But
and you just to show my dominance.
But so he's going with the sure thing. So now he's driving an F1. So in 4 years.
But McLaren have made a horrible day.
Yeah.
You can't, after the R&D thing, and you're like, yeah, not him. That you either roll out the red carpet and you're like, you'll be our number 2 driver and do this, or
I don't know much about racing again, but in the totem pole of F1 teams, McLaren I think is substantially ahead of Theodore.
Because they still exist. That's
yes,
definitely what.
Sure, yeah. But even still, so he's now racing for Theodore for the last couple of races.
Companies with first names have all gone by the wayside.
Yeah.
All the big cars now,
Irish second names.
Surnames. It's McLaren. It's
that's probably Scottish.
Yeah, but
Jaguar.
It's actually McLaren might be just be Mercedes now. They might have gone in with their. But yeah, it's Jaguar.
Yeah,
it's Mercedes. Can you name any other cars?
Nope.
Fiat. They got one.
Punto. I met a woman called Clementine Mercedes before, which means mercy in 2 different languages.
Big into BDSM.
But the bottom line is now he's now racing for an F1 team. So in 4 years, he's gone from he's just come over from Dundalk, no money, no nothing, no sponsors, no patrons, and he's gone from nothing to driving in the Formula 1 Grand Prix.
Yeah. Now, he's been paid for all of this along the way, I'm assuming.
But he's not retaining any money. Any money he makes is going. He owes so much money for racing. Any money he gets from the winning, he's going straight back into the next race.
But when he wins stuff that the team must win, so surely they get the.
Yeah, but the idea is that the driver is given so much money that it is that you're so rich that you're either being sponsored by people.
Yeah,
and they're paying for the team. But every time he wins a race, that's why they say that's the ultimate hunger during the whole F3 thing is he needs to win these races or else he won't have enough money to pay for the next race. It's all just going straight back into it. So he's not I'm sure he's getting a little bit, but he's not making money. He's not getting rich off it.
But now in Formula 1.
Oh,
here we go.
200
bottles of champagne.
Except the Theodore car that he's given is shit.
Yeah.
No one from their team had been able to qualify with the car that season. Tommy manages to do it twice out of the 5 attempts he had. But it's preying on his mental health. He's lost in Formula One.
This is a real... You're foreshadowing heavily now because twice you've mentioned his mental health.
No, I mean, it is funny.
And usually when that comes up in conversation, you tend to say, Jason, shut up.
No,
I don't want to hear about it again.
I don't want to hear about your sob stories. But it is funny watching people from the 80s be like, it's clear what he's describing as depression. But at the time, it was just like, he's got a bad attitude.
Depression? Is that a new kind of suspension? Is that going to help?
Is that going to help the
shave
car?
off half a second?
But, because he's gone into Formula One now. Like he says people won't talk to him. People doubted his ability, doubted his driving. He's in a situation now where he's like...
You could say that the pressure's driving him mad.
Yes, but he's in the same situation he's been in twice before in his career where he's convinced he's driving a shit car. He talks about hearing pops and clicks and stuff when he's driving. He's convinced it's the car's fault, not him. But again, the team's just like, you're losing it, you need to shore up or whatever. But twice before in his career, he's basically threatened to walk unless he got a better car. Then he gets the better car and goes on to dominate that division. But that won't fly in F1. He's trying to do the same thing, but they just won't listen to him. And more than that, they don't believe in him.
Yeah, well, look, it's a company called Theodore. They're going to put their fate into a drunken man from Dundalk.
Yeah, well, they're like belittling him. He's talking to the manager about like how the car is letting him down, and the manager tells him if Kiki Rosberg was in this car, he'd be first. And he starts, I think the straw that like breaks the camel's back is that he starts sending people over to Tommy to like tell him how to race. Tommy doesn't like that. He tells him to go fuck himself quite a bit.
Yeah.
Apparently...
Well, then you know what he should have done?
What?
He should have told the manager, put Kiki Rodriguez, what's his name?
Kiki Rosberg?
Rosberg.
Yeah.
That's a great name.
Yeah.
Put Kiki Rosenberg into this.
Well, Kiki wasn't on their team, so that wasn't really an option.
No, but
I think he'd won the Formula One that year. So he's basically like, if the best driver in the world was in this car, he'd be winning.
Yeah, but then like you'll see it this year then, but like Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah.
So he had just finished second last year. Many people believe he was screwed out of it. And many people, I mean, anyone with a spare cent in their head. And he was absolutely screwed out of it. And then this year, because they've made new changes, I've been told, I've stopped following it after the drama.
After they screwed your boy.
Well, after just the drama of the end of the year. Like, I can pay attention to any sport for 3 weeks if it's in a very tight, dramatic stage at the very end of it. I can learn anything I need to in about a week's worth of podcasts.
Yeah.
And then just have my blood boiled with anything.
I'm so outraged about this thing I didn't
My
know
boy,
existed.
Lewis!
My boy! What they've done to him.
It was about to bring me and the Union Jack closer together. And they've ruined this.
But, well, our real boy, Tommy, he's getting done dirty. The management, after his races, they're sending over people to like critique his times.
I mean,
and, like,
that's like, I don't know about they're sending people over. That's what happened to Hamilton this year. They're like, he got screwed out of basically the biggest comeback in most sports histories. That he fucking managed to pull it back like week by week, little by little, and it came to the last week and they fucked him. And everyone was like, "You're surely going to overturn that." That's like, the guy cheated. You're like, let sleeping dogs lie. They're not sleeping yet. You're still fucking strangling
They're awake and drinking champagne.
And then, so a few months later, the new season starts and the laws have changed with cars. That's about them as much as I know. They're like, now you got to redesign it entirely, the first time in years. And then he's just like finishing like 7th and 8th in every race. And they're like, Hamilton's past it, Drake. But 4 months ago, he was the best driver in the world, Drake. Are you sure you just didn't fuck up the car?
Yeah.
They definitely, he's been talking about it for the whole year. But I've been seeing on Sky Sports headlines have just been like, car's not great. It's like, I don't know what I've done in the space of 4 months to go from this, like the second, it's 1 and 2, and then nobody else near them, to him being like down past everyone else. Right? Yeah, it feels like he's gotten fucked up.
It's good, but see, Tommy hasn't got this is his first time in Formula One, so he hasn't got that like status, I suppose, to back up his claims. As far as they can see, he's just like another cocky guy who's blaming the car rather than his own ability. But when they start sending people over to like micromanage him, he flips out. He once drunkenly asked a friend in London to help him hire a hitman to kill the manager. Now, my only issue with that is, as a proper Dundalk man, he should have had his own people take care of it. He should have taken care of that in-house.
Internally.
Yeah. That's a bit shopping it out to London, slapping the face to certain dissidents, I'd say.
It's a slap in the balaclava.
Yeah. But luckily that fizzled out. Nothing came of it. But when they were in the
Much
Las
like
Vegas,
half their bombs.
When they were in the Las Vegas Grand Prix, they all went pinting afterwards, and again the manager was giving out to Tommy and giving him pointers, and Tommy threw a chair at him and stormed out. In a classic case of "I'm not fired, I quit," and he just left.
Don't tell me that's the end of it.
That's not the end of it, but that is the end of his time with Theodore and F1.
Okay, good. Because now clearly this man's a loose cannon.
Yeah,
You know, he's a wild card.
he is.
But by
Goddamn.
God, that's the best driver I've ever seen in my life. Someone's got to take a chance at him.
Well, he goes back to the F3, the Marlboro British F3 1982 championship.
Why
The winning
not just
prize.
at that stage, then why not F2?
Well, because he just goes back to because it's still the same season. He's only been gone for a while,
Oh, okay, gotcha.
and he goes back to the end of the same season. The winning winning prize, a chance to drive with McLaren.
Something
even
he
though
could have
Tommy-
he could have just done that in the test.
Well, because he moves up, he sees this as his opportunity to do F1 way around. That doesn't go well. He tries to kill a man.
Yeah.
He fucks off.
But I know I was on board with him earlier on, tell McLaren fuck off,
Yeah.
right? But he was offered the chance to test drive for them.
I know.
So you could have just been like, Theodore, I'm taking it. No worries at all.
Yeah.
Do you can you come here? 1 second. I'll call you. Close the fucking. You
Call
do.
me back in 10 seconds.
Yeah. Have you ever done 2 interviews in the 1 week?
Yes.
And said you loved both jobs?
Yes.
Right, yeah, do that. And then he could have already had the McLaren.
He could have.
And now he's he's driving to go and try and win.
To get a chance to win it, yeah.
Which I'm assuming he doesn't win.
Even though he'd missed 4 races in that season when he was driving F1, he still goes on to beat Enrique Masala by 2 seconds and win the 82 championship.
Was this the same season he was ahead 33 points?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, yeah.
But obviously he was ahead enough that he could leave for a while, fuck up in F1 and come back and still win. So he's back with Murray Taylor and on like a shoestring budget, which again in F3 is probably hundreds and hundreds, probably a couple of million. But they managed to win the 82 championship, even with Tommy missing 4 races.
Nice.
And he gets his chance to test drive with McLaren. So here we go. In October, he heads over to drive the McLaren MP4/1. Supposedly, he brought a couple of ladies along to watch the race with him. He'd been out the night before with his mate and their lady friends, and in his own words, he said, I mean, she looked like a whore. She wasn't, but she wore a lot of makeup and a skirt that barely covered her arse. So,
What did this have to do with driving the car?
what this has to do is that he's already, in his own mind, lost an opportunity with McLaren when he met with Ron Dennis because he wasn't like,
Right.
you know, prim and proper enough. And now he's showing up a chance to test drive their fastest car.
Yeah, to prove him
and
wrong.
he's bringing a couple of fucking... First of all, he's out drinking pints the night before. He's showing up hungover and he's bringing 2 women he found in the pub with him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And your problem is?
My problem is
I
that he
love
should have
that.
brought more women.
Yeah, should have. He's doubling down. He should have brought double the amount of women. If someone doesn't like you for who you are,
Yes.
and then
he's not going to fucking change.
Yeah, they come crawling back to you. You
Yep.
don't fucking placate them by trying to turn yourself into something that they can like appease or love or whatever.
Yes, sir.
You turn around and go, I am snorting lines off this bitch's ass.
You think this skirt is short? You wait to see what happens if you turn me away again. I'm coming back next year. I'm fucking driving your car. Oh, baby. So, at the time, Niki Lauda
Yes.
from the film Rush.
Yeah.
And John Watson
From Sherlock Holmes.
from Sherlock Holmes. They were driving for McLaren. They were the 2 drivers. So Tommy gets into this car, their fastest car. He'd never driven it before. He goes around on his first test run, first time in the car. He beats both Lauda and Watson's time around the track
By much.
by enough.
An inch.
There's footage of the test drive, and like it keeps cutting in the documentary. It keeps cutting between the footage of the test drive.
It's not like old Gran Turismo style, is it, where they see like a ghost car right behind
yeah,
them?
yeah, Mario Kart style. But all the
I like how
talking
that's our
heads,
different.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
You think Mario Kart, and I'm like, do you know how in the
In Gran Turismo, you know when he threw the blue shell at Lauda and got him on the last run. But like all the talking heads are like, some of them were at the race that day because it was a big deal. I guess the test drive of McLaren, even for them to get to see it being brought around the track, it's like, you know, one of the most impressive machines at the time. And they're talking about being there, and they're like, he did things that weren't supposed to be possible. Like these two guys are like McLaren's two top drivers, like Lauda, and they're driving this car full time for McLaren. He gets into it, hungover, and beats their time in front of all of the McLaren people.
I believe it.
Now, this is debated, but apparently when he got out of the car, he said, if they can go faster than that, they can stick their cucumber sandwiches up their arse. Now, he says he didn't say that, but it sounds like something he might have said. It came out afterwards.
I just love that. There's something then, I don't know if this is linked in any way. Like, so he called it cucumber sandwiches.
Yeah, because it's kind of like, I guess that's fancy.
Yeah, when Roy Keane was having a falling out with United, and they're like the fans there, and like, you know, a lot of tourists coming in who aren't necessarily like giant football fans, or like there's a lot of executives around who aren't like real football people.
Yeah,
and he called those the prawn sandwich brigade. And
Yeah.
he's like, they're sitting up there with their prawn sandwiches.
Yeah.
And it's just enough to go like, it's a beautiful keeping sandwich, because that's like what all the regular people eat.
Yeah.
But then just making the filling something so fucking
fancy.
stupidly fancy.
Because, I mean, the reality is whatever rich people are eating, it's something that we don't even know exists.
They're not putting it in between
They're
slices of
definitely
bread.
putting it between fucking bread and eating it on the side
A
of a restaurant.
caviar sandwich.
But it's debated whether he said that at all.
An adrenochrome sandwich.
Yeah. It came out afterwards, though. And again, this is, I don't know, this is mentioned in the book, and like Eddie Johnson, a few people say this, I don't know if it's true, but allegedly the car had been hampered because they were worried he'd wreck it. So he was driving around.
Oh, they
It
put like
wasn't in full throttle.
so they put like a limiter on it.
Which doesn't really make any sense, because whether it's going at like 310 kilometers or 315, he's still going to fuck it.
But hold on,
You know what I mean?
this was while he was doing that test lap? No.
Allegedly, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Now,
No, not allegedly anymore. That's fact.
that's fact.
It's the only thing on the history of this podcast I'm willing to say is 100% fact.
Yeah. Maybe they put some sort of limit on it so he wouldn't burn it out. But it doesn't really... So, Ron Dennis still head of McLaren. Well, I mean, it's only a couple of months or maybe a year after.
But by a limiter on it, do you mean that they put a breathalyzer inside of it so he had to blow,
Yeah, it's what the fuck
he had
is
to
this?
blow into this before he'd start? He's like, they wouldn't let me drive at full throttle. I had to be sober.
So Ron Dennis, still head of McLaren. Again, he has a certain idea of how an F1 driver should act. Apparently, he didn't even show up to the test that day. And Tommy maintains that he knew he wasn't going to sign him. But I don't know. It doesn't make... He says that, like, Dennis had told him he wasn't going to sign it. But, like, it costs... Maybe they were tied in with the F3 prize. But it would cost a fortune to even do that test drive. And you're risking your fucking baby. And if you told a man he wasn't going to be able to drive, and you knew he was a loose cannon and a drunk, and you put him in your like unbelievably expensive car, and he knew he was never going to be able to race for you, that would be a terrible idea.
You would.
Yeah,
Which is why
implying,
you would put a limiter on the car.
Yeah, but he's kind of implying that he knew from the get-go that he wasn't even going to get a chance and that they weren't taking it seriously. If you're going to put him in your car, on some level, you must be taking it seriously that he was going to race for you.
Yeah.
Because basically,
Even if you have the idea in your head of going like
Yeah.
they're just placating me, they're letting me have a go.
yeah,
You'd still do it. This is your one chance.
But you wouldn't placate a man with like, there's so much money at risk.
You don't know enough rich people.
Yeah. but anyway, the bottom line is, even though we've beaten their racers' times, they don't pick him up. He basically finds out about it the next week in motorsport, in the motorsport newspapers. There's two of them. One barely mentions it. Another is a bit of a write-up that basically says, Tommy Byrne, fast, but too cocky. And they downplay how well he done on the times and like how much he beaten the other racers by. But it's documented, like the whole thing's filmed, and like those people there who saw it, and like the times that he did were documented. But when it comes out in the paper, they basically downplay it, and they're like, he's not driving for McLaren.
Jesus.
And so he maintains he never had a fair shot, that it was all predetermined. But it doesn't make sense to me that they would let him anywhere near it if it was predetermined that he wasn't going to be able to do it.
It's probably part of the prize, like the
You
affiliation
could,
that they
with
have.
that amount of money, you could find a way out of it.
For one car that, like, he's not going to, the speeds you're driving at,
Yeah.
you're not going to be like, I'll just tip this into the wall for the crack.
But
and
that he could, like,
possibly die.
yeah.
It's not, I'd say, no, maybe there wasn't a limiter on it. Maybe he just absolutely smashed it anyway.
Yeah.
But every single thing you've told me about this man until now, I wouldn't be throwing 25 million per year behind him.
No.
Plus whatever, that's like the cost of the car, plus his salary, and then trying to
Yeah.
get sponsors on board, because those companies then get sponsors on the car or whatever.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you're not going to take the risk, and there's no big money coming in from Ireland. And there's
No,
Formula
but
1
he's-
isn't supported in America, so you don't get the American-Irish book.
But he's
coming
that
in.
good.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
At this point, he's like the best driver that they have.
Yeah.
But they don't take him up.
I'd say it doesn't matter, because just find a nice boy.
Yeah.
Just find
And
a
yeah,
nice
find
boy
a Senna.
who's good, yeah. And was obviously, that's the thing about, you were talking about earlier on about Senna, and that, like, Tommy has a chip on his shoulder about the wealth.
Yeah.
Wealth does come into it, and the opportunity of everything.
Yeah.
Also, the man was born to drive.
Yeah.
That, like, there's all these other people, say, like Tommy, he loves racing, he loves driving. Why didn't he stop drinking and riding and drugging? But, like, yeah, Senna had a lot of money. He
Yeah.
also didn't do any of that.
And it's also like Senna's born into. They're gonna go into this. Well, they don't really touch.
Yeah,
on
if
this
you're
point, but
if
like,
you're born into
Senna's
wealth,
born
you've
into
no reason to go do anything. You can just live comfortably.
Yeah, but Senna's born into wealth. Tommy's born into incredible skill. They like Tommy never. They kind of compare him later on to drivers who are like, there's lads who wake up on Monday morning and just spend the entire week until race day thinking about how they're going to be better racers, practicing. And they're kind of like, Tommy just drank all week. Even when him and Ayrton were racing, Tommy described himself as being cocky and Ayrton was arrogant. But like Ayrton would like study and work hard on it the whole time. Tommy would just literally just drink and party all weekend and drive. So Ayrton's born with the advantage of being in a very wealthy family, but Tommy's born with the advantage of just being like naturally talented. And I don't think because he could just stop drinking and driving and take it seriously. It's sort of the equivalent. He's been gifted something from birth that he didn't necessarily earn, and he doesn't work on that.
Yeah, but then it's also
Work on top of that to get into the top leagues.
people often say that about sports stars. Of been like, "Geez, he had all the talent in the world. If only he could have harnessed it." Right? It's so difficult if you have that much talent
Yeah.
to actually harness it. Of going
Well,
like,
you could stop drinking and
You
fucking
could-
around.
you could, but if you had that much going on, that you're like, there's fighters are a great example. Soccer players as well, but fighters for some reason seem to work better. That like once you're just a generational talent,
Yeah.
it's not like Tommy wasn't driving.
Yeah.
Like he was driving every day, all day. It's just that he wasn't going home and doing the extra work.
Yeah.
But he was an incredibly talented
But I don't
driver.
think he was driving all day every day. He was sessioning.
He was driving drunk
He
all
was
day every
driving
day.
drunk. He was driving the women wild.
Yeah.
But, well, now after this setback, he hits the drink and drugs even harder.
Well, see, and that's the same thing then that happens with fighters.
Yeah.
But like the idea of trying to cope with like the the incredible weight of talent.
Yeah.
To Nicolas Cage.
Yeah.
That film.
Yeah.
But like that talent on your shoulders, you're still going to the gym or the racetrack working out.
Mhm.
You're doing all of that, and then people are like, "Why don't you not do any of that and just live like a hermit?" And they're like, "Well, the baddest man in the world sometimes needs to live like the baddest man in the
Yeah,
world."
yeah,
Tommy's
yeah,
not
yeah.
taking those fucking risks on the track,
I
driving
get you.
around like a headless chicken if he's got like an angel on his shoulder being
Yeah.
like, "No, and then in 4 turns time it's going to be a fraction of a thing." No, he's
Yeah.
not dealing with that.
He's
It's
a
all
wild man.
fucking feel.
Yeah.
And sometimes to feel, he needs to be like most Irishmen, drinking and watching sports before they can emote.
Yeah, you know what? That's a very good point. Well, again, yeah. Well, again, he gets
Full
big into-
circle.
full
like
circle,
like a NASCAR rally.
oh, like the Nuremberg. But there's many points in the documentary when they're like, when he's being interviewed and he's like, yeah, and that's when I hit the drink very hard. But he says that so often, you're like, when weren't you drinking? Like this is another point where he like hits that hard. Apparently, he's talking about there's an award ceremony.
There was at one point the car ran out of fuel and he just got sick into it.
Yeah,
And he won that race.
Yeah. The amount of ethanol, he just
like
breathed,
20 seconds.
just breathed it into the fuel tank, and the amount of ethanol kept it going. But he's going for an award ceremony, and someone offers him a load of coke beforehand, and he gets big into it, snorting lines all day. Then he starts to feel a bit weird after the award ceremony, and there's footage of him at it, and he's just like sweating and just looking mad. And he goes back to the house after the award ceremony, or he gives the bag of coke to someone else, and they take a line and come back and is like, "Man, that's not coke, that's speed." And he's just been snorting speed all day.
I've had a need for it all my life.
Well, he didn't have a need for it after this. He went back to a gaff and ended up staying up for 3 days, just coming down, couldn't sleep. And it all sort of hit him then. He was like, "Hey, you know what? This isn't actually. I'm actually depressed. This isn't good." So he heads off to America in 1985, just like he'd wanted to do when he was 16.
How old is he now?
Late
20s?
1985. What did I say? He's probably, late 20s.
15, was it in 1976?
I think he's born in 1958.
Oh.
Yeah. So he's probably, late 20s.
Yeah.
And he's starting from the beginning in the racing world in America. He keeps drinking, but now he's taking it a little less seriously. He's enjoying himself.
He's taking the drinking a little less seriously? Or
No, he's taking the drinking more seriously, but he's taking the racing less seriously.
Yeah.
And he's starting to enjoy himself, earn a little bit of money on the American circuit. Now he starts to make actual cash.
Like NASCAR driving, or what's his deal?
No, not the Indy circuit. I don't know if I've written it down here.
You didn't think I was going to pull you up on in America doing racing. I'm like, oh, well, what would that mean?
No,
like,
I did. No, it's in the ARS championship.
Don't be throwing around letters that I don't know.
He's in the ARS championship, but in the American circuit. So he says at the time he's driving for a millionaire manic depressive who was convinced he was going to become president.
Driving for himself?
Yep. But some say his first love was the car. His second love was his wife that he married in 1987.
And he drove her to divorce.
Well, they have a load of kids in America, and he's making a good bit of money. Like he's so good, and there's less races over there, I guess, in the ARS circuit, that he's making a fair bit of money. And he's kind of resigned himself to the fact that he's never going to race F1 again. But he's looking towards getting into IndyCar racing, which is the elite in the America circuit, I guess, suppose. So from 87 to 89, he competes in the ARS championship full time. He's placing each time. Every time there's kind of a different thing that he puts up the bad luck where he's like just not hitting not coming first in it. But if he wins, it's his ticket into like the IndyCar circuit, which is the equivalent of F1. In his last championship drive, another driver called Arthur Abrams, and you can watch the footage of this, and it's fucking like tragic. He skids, turns around, and drifts in front of Tommy and blocks him just accidentally and fucks up costs him the race.
What?
Yeah.
Oh.
It's kind of like it must be the 89 year or maybe 1990, and it's his last sort of chance, and this guy just like fucks up his car, drifts in front of Tommy like can't avoid him, and he just loses the race. And he's talking afterwards, and he loses like 80 grand there and then. His chance to progress is kind of like he feels like it's his last year to progress into IndyCar. He doesn't take it well, and it's at that point he starts hitting the drinking drugs. So he drops out of the spotlight, and he starts
that's
racing.
Heartbreaking.
I know, it's like you can watch the clip of it. It's so bad.
I think there is a thing about that though in like F1, about like people who take unnecessary risks. You're kind of forgiven it if you're chasing the lead, or if you're in front, or like if there's a championship at play or whatever. If you fuck over multiple people by doing something stupid, then everyone's against you. And you're like, good luck coming back next year to find anyone who's going to take you, because you just you cost a load of money with all the cars crashed.
Yeah.
Someone might have been doing well, and you were just, if you have no skin in the game, nothing to play for, and you do a stupid move at a point of the season where it doesn't make any sense. You just fucking finish out the season.
Yeah.
Don't cost anyone anything. If you go and fuck over a lot of people, then you're like, no, that's your career done. It was one mistake. That was
a big one.
Yeah, you're done forever.
Yeah. Now, I don't think it was the case where he's like, I think he was probably in second, or maybe he might have been like whatever way he did it. I don't know. He was also a contender. But I did purposely put his name in here because he fucked over our boy, Arthur Abrams.
Well, no, but even like that, as in if he was a contender in that race,
yeah.
But the season was
I don't know what the details were of it, but it fucks up Tommy bad. He ends up dropping out of the spotlight. He starts racing Formula 3 in Mexico. He starts racing for a team that's giving him 2K a race and a full minibar. So that's pretty good. He eventually starts being bankrolled by a guy named Ocho, who he described as a bisexual, manic-depressive, gun-crazed alcoholic.
Anything else?
I don't know.
That's enough to be going. I'm going to try and guess what of a character he's like.
Yeah.
Load of fun.
Load of fun. Well, Tommy says his introduction to him. I don't know how he meets him, but he says...
The Ocho.
The Ocho. Ocho can only speak Spanish. Tommy can only speak English.
Ocho Cinco de Mayo.
Ah.
You won't get that joke, but some of our sports fans will. Like a Mexican Chad Johnson.
There you go. But
My God, I hope that's his name.
he describes it as the first time he met Ocho, he's sitting in the back of a car and they're driving around, Ocho's in the front, and Ocho has a gun, and Tommy can't understand him, but he thinks Ocho keeps like pointing at the gun and saying stuff to him, and he's pretty sure that he's going to shoot him. He starts pointing the gun out the window, and he's like, fucking hell, he's going to start shooting passengers now, but he just like starts shooting road signs, and I don't know. But the whole time Tommy's sitting in the back being like, alright, this is it, he's going to murder me and murder everyone around me. But he becomes his bankroller and best friend in Mexico.
See, this is what he needed from the get-go.
Yes.
He needed the Gordon get-go.
He needed an Ocho.
He needed the Ra to come in.
Yeah. Well,
Right.
so Tommy, he doesn't know where the money's coming from, but he kept driving for the guy, and anytime they won, they'd celebrate with, as Morris Roddy, his old dog friend, said, they'd celebrate with partying and hoors in Mexico. But in a shock twist, Ocho eventually became too unstable. And one night, Tommy heard him shooting off his gun in the house. Tommy went out to the bottom of the stairs and called up to him to see what was wrong. And he just saw a load of naked women running out of Ocho's room. Ocho came out, pointed the gun at Tommy, and fired a bullet at him. Now, luckily, he missed, but Tommy was like, you know what? That's enough of that. I'm going to tip on back home. 2 weeks later, he found out that Ocho was found dead in a swimming pool.
I could see, you know what? I saw that coming.
Did you?
I did, yeah.
I tried to find out more about Ocho, but that was it. That's the end of Ocho. Now, Tommy is still technically married at this stage, and for some reason, when he comes
I
back,
like how you said technically married.
yeah, because his wife leaves him at some point during the season where he's just in Mexico banging prostitutes and doing a load of drugs with Ocho. For some reason, his wife leaves him.
I wonder what it could have been.
I don't know. They didn't say it.
I think he wasn't emotionally available.
When he gets back to America, though, he's done with racing. He becomes a laborer instead of going back into it.
Wait, what?
Yeah, he's been shot at by his best friend Ocho. If you can't trust Ocho,
Who can you trust?
who can you trust, you know? But he eventually, the smell of the fumes, the fucking race of the car, the sound of the engines, it pulls him back in. This time, as a teacher. So now he's a professional driver coach in Daytona.
Top Gun Maverick.
He started in
There's one last fucking job to be done.
He started.
Tommy, we need you to teach people. No, what about to drive? I mainly drive. No, we need you just to teach. Well, what about over the space of 2 weeks you realise that all the people you're teaching aren't good enough to drive? You need to drive again. Saddle up one more time, Tommy boy.
I'm not going to watch Top Gun Maverick. That ship has sailed.
It's a plane.
I know. But he starts working for the Daytona driving coach team in 1994. The same year, he hears the news that his old rival Ayrton Senna had died in the 1994 San Marino Grand Prix.
He's like, there's probably a car over there I can pilfer a couple of parts from.
Oh no, he died in a big crash. So that car,
probably one tire left.
One tire left. Now apparently they made up years before, and it's funny. I mean, I guess you can't judge a man entirely on his Wikipedia entry, but it is funny when I was dipping into like Niki Lauda or James Hunt, who also found out, my old housemate, Jamie Hunt, named after James Hunt.
Oh, really?
Scooter,
Yeah.
So jumping into a little bit of those guys for a bit of background.
From the film Rush.
From Rush, yeah, exactly. But from looking at a bit of those guys for background, like Senna, when Senna died, it seemed like a national day of grieving in Brazil. And Senna's Wikipedia page is massive. Tommy's is a paragraph. There's like no information on him. I think the thing that got me was that like Senna's opens with the time he was born. Like it is the time of his birth. Tommy, they don't even say where the fuck he was born.
Yeah.
Like, but the two of them were rivals. Like they were peers. They were both at the same level. but it's just night and day compared to like how they ended up. Senna, there's a film made about him. I mean, Tommy also has a film made about him, but it's about how no one's fucking heard of him, whereas Senna's was about how tragic it is that he died.
Yeah. Well, he went on to the highest level to perform at the highest level.
Yeah, but so did Tommy if he had just not been a dick.
That's it. If he had not been a dick, if he had got the opportunities to, I guess that's always the problem as well. Of like, you need to be a stable enough.
Yeah.
Or else, and there's lots of cases of people being batshit crazy with enough talent that they're allowed to go and do things.
Yeah.
Like you're still allowed on stage.
Exactly.
Yeah, but at a certain point you have to go like, can I be? And usually the test is, do I want to be alone in a car with this person for 3 hours?
Yeah.
For a driver, that's a very different thing. Do I want him to be in my car for 3 hours that cost 25 million? You can't trust him.
Yeah.
And Senna went on and he was incredible. And he died in shocking circumstances.
It was very shocking. I was reading a bit about it.
And it ended up changing like the race and like the standards and protocols of safety for
because
years
another guy
and
had
years.
died like the day before.
Yeah, but it's Senna.
No, another guy died at that race.
Yeah, but
and because I heard that, I can't remember where he was from, but Senna had a flag of the guy, whoever died the day before, and they were all like, Senna, you shouldn't race, this unsafe or whatever. He's like, fuck that, I'm out there doing it.
Yeah, everyone.
And he had a
said it's
flag
unsafe.
from the country that the previous guy, the guy who died the day before, whatever his country was, he had that flag in the car, and they found it. He was going to do like a big
crashed that
speech to him.
car on purpose just to burn
Just
that
to burn the
flag.
flag. But listen, it's not all about racing. In 1998, he gets back in touch with a girlfriend he'd had when he'd been going out with her in 84. They get together.
Oh,
They're still married now. He's big into mountain biking. In 2008, he co-wrote that book with Mark Hughes called Crashed and Burned, the greatest racing driver you never saw. That did very well. It spawned a documentary then in 2016. There's loads of quotes about him, but yeah, like so Eddie Jordan, the F1 team manager / Top Gear presenter, said, "Forget Shuey and Senna."
Do you mean the F1 driver?
Yeah, he might have been a driver then as well. Yeah, because it did mention him as being like he's one of the guys that Tommy had followed over to England. But he's currently an F1 team manager, and I think he got, when all the real Top Gear presenters left, he was one of the guys they got in to present the new Top Gear.
Ah,
I don't know. Anyway,
that didn't go.
This is Eddie Jordan. He said that forget Shuey and Senna, Tommy Byrne was the best of them all. And by Shuey, he means Michael Schumacher there. He's just doing that. That is a very Dublin thing when you're rich.
Put an EY at the end of
it.
It's a rugby player thing.
They
always say it about like soccer players that they'll just like all the nicknames are just them with a Y at the end. But like you hear the rugby ones and it's
all just
like, they've gone to college. They should be smart. But like Horgan will be like Horgy.
Yeah.
Or Driscoll will be like Drisky.
Yeah, well, it's the same. Like everyone from Inchicore, it's all like fucking Anto and Deco. But then if you go over to Dalkey, it's Anti and Decky. Like it is the same.
Yeah.
It's just same, but it's just putting a Y instead of an O. I think we've cracked something there. I don't know what it is. But the end of Crash and Burn, the last scene is just Tommy talking to the camera. And he says, I do know one thing. No one gives a shit. I was pissed off too long. I'm worn out. It's time to move on. Because I'm not pissed off anymore. And I met a lot of people along the way. And I made a lot of friends. It hasn't been a terrible life. I just lost out on about $100 million. That's all. And it ends. But it's just it's a beautiful little, I made friends, I got married, I'm happy, I've got kids. All it cost me was a couple of $100 million. What about it?
Yeah, but you're already doing pretty well.
He's not doing well.
Oh,
no,
shit.
Well, no, he probably, like, he seems to be doing well enough. I don't know what he's involved with, but he's basically teaching, like, high-end race car drivers in America.
No, so he's probably doing okay.
He's probably doing okay.
But it's just, compared to what you
compared to, like, Senna.
Yeah. Who's dead?
Who's dead, yes. But compared,
I could have been
dead, and, like, I could have had a great film about me. I could have been,
Well, you wouldn't let me watch this film. You were like, no, I'll save it all for the podcast.
Yeah, Crash and Burn as a documentary, I wouldn't. It's grand.
It sounds like you'd recommend it just for the last line alone.
The last line is very funny and well delivered, but they don't go into enough detail about the stuff that I want to hear about. Like, they skirt over a lot of the, like, seedy stuff, or like who was giving him money. There's not enough drug stories, because they keep talking about how wild and crazy he was, but don't really go into any of the actual details of what he did. And it's not really that good. It's about an hour and a half. It's probably not worth watching
Okay.
unless you're very interested in racing.
Because you're basically like, do I want to go watch that now or go see Blackbird for a second time?
Exactly. Or you could go see watch Senna or Rush. The one about James Hunt's supposed to be very good.
It's pretty good. Is that there's very few. It's very rare you'll find a sports film that's better than the documentary made about the same thing.
Yeah.
Because sport on its own is. I know you hate sport.
But
like in general.
But I hate film more.
But like the documentaries often do it better because they don't need to do the Netflix thing of like dramatizing everything and being like building it up to.
I heard Senna take some very bad liberties with like the races between, or maybe it's Rush, I think. Yeah. It is between the competition between, is it Niki Lauda and James Hunt? Yeah, and they take a lot of liberties with like, because a lot of it is decided in the polls. One of them I think drops out a couple of races early, but they're like, what if we just have them both in the same race and they're going head to head, because that's easier to film than one of them not being on the track.
Now they bring that in, but it's like it's been years since I've seen it, but I'm pretty sure they do talk about that. But it's like, and then they like drag up like, when he's winning and he's at home and like it's wrecking his head, which it must have been anyway.
Sure.
But you can do that in a documentary and just allow the history itself to create the narrative,
and you can show actual footage of the race.
Versus like needing to, because as soon as you differ 1 second from what's actually happened, you're like, well, then you're just doing it to dramatize things. Like, it's drama enough. It captivated an audience enough to still be talking about it 20 to 30 years afterwards.
Yeah, that's my main issue with all films, including Argo. But well, that's pretty much. So this story I'd wanted to do for a while because I thought it's a funny idea that a Dundalk.
Did you say Argo because that was a sports film?
No, it's
like killing them for sport.
We were talking about it recently for something.
Yeah, the
last episode that's behind the Patreon paywall. You can
go and fucking support that.
But we started. This episode's been. I wanted to do this for a while because I thought it was funny. The idea that a Dundalk man also almost got to the top tier of Formula One racing, but it mainly came back into my head because there's currently a 16-year-old driver by the name of Alex Dunn who's racing with High Tech.
Done and dusted.
That'd be good. The documentary if he met a man called Dusted. But they High Tech race F3 and F2. He
dusted them in the race. That's after he left them in the exhaust fumes.
Yeah, but he's doing very well in the world of karting. They reckon he's tipped as being our best chance of having an Irish Formula One racer in the next couple of years.
Oh,
yeah. There you go.
Which is that's like Ireland basically spends, like the nation kind of spends its time, because there's certain sports we love.
Yeah.
So obviously there's GA. People get behind the football, even if everyone hates the soccer, the football.
Yeah.
They'll get behind it when it's going well.
Sure.
In a way bigger way than they will, even if the rugby team is the best in the world. Once the soccer team is qualified for a tournament, that's a whole new boiling kettle of fish.
It's way bigger for Ireland to like badly qualify for the Euros. Like if we won the Rugby World Cup, wouldn't get as much attention as if we got into the regular World Cup and got knocked out before the qualifiers.
Yeah, it's a big deal for the rugby, but everyone also realizes, none of the major countries in the world are playing this game. It's England.
It depends what your definition of major is, but like England, Scotland, Wales, France.
Find me. I said outside of England.
France.
Right.
Italy. Australia.
Go and find, when it comes to the Olympics or any other like major sport around the world.
Yeah.
The ones that are good at rugby outside of England.
Yeah.
Usually don't have that many winners at many other things.
That's true, but in terms of nuclear warheads,
that's not what we're talking about. For once, that's not what we're talking about.
It's not that, but
that it's a niche sport that only like it's played in like I was going to say England public schools, but like in private schools around the world, and then that's all it is. And like soccer is something that ends up like captain of 8 in the nations. People get behind that in a way that same as boxing or same as any one individual person, but then like niche sports like this. It's kind of the same as like when MMA was coming up and like everyone's getting behind McGregor. Like, wait, you're telling me there's a famous person that people around the world are paying attention to, and we have a chance of being good? All right, we'll ride this into the dirt.
And
it's going to go bad eventually.
Well, Formula One seems to have gotten some sort of, I don't know if resurgence is even right, but like it's become very popular in the last 10 years. Well, you're like Senna and
Three-
Rush.
like literally 2 to 3.
Well, like Senna came out in 2010.
Yeah,
Rush.
That didn't turn people back on to F1.
But it seemed like the fact that there was at least 3 or 4 high-profile films about racing. But then there's all that Netflix series that came out like 2 or 3 years ago.
Last year,
Was it last year? Was that during COVID?
Yeah.
I thought that
which
was
is
like
what no,
season
that's why it was very popular.
Yeah.
And it came out right around the time of there being this like the Hamilton Verstappen rivalry,
two. Yeah.
and this huge end of the season climax, and it all timed perfectly, and
Yeah.
everyone was watching because of that, and then people were actually watching the light, like just,
Yeah.
and then now people are still kind of watching, but it's already dying.
Yeah.
It's
but
gone.
but just the fact that there's been so much media about it.
No,
in the
you
last-
couldn't have picked a worse time to do this episode.
Alex Dunn's going to be the next Formula
it's
1 champion of the
it's-
world.
It's completely dead. They're already dropped off.
It
It's
seems
gone.
one of the most. It seems like it's a sport made for middle-aged men because you can fall asleep on the couch
Yeah,
and wake up an hour later,
like golf.
and zero has changed.
Where it's just on in the
It
background.
literally is 10 seconds.
It's a reason for you to tuck a pinstripe shirt into some khakis, roll up the
Get
sleeves,
them good brown shoes
Yeah.
polished.
call a man over to the table and go, I was just saying here to Martha. Now, she said, the years I've been around here, you've never bought me a pint.
It's great stuff. But, well, the chances of getting into, I think at some point in the documentary they say IndyCar at the time in 2016 had 24 seats, F1 at 22,
24 seats. There's only one man in every car.
only one man in every
So-
car.
It's waste.
And then
Ride share.
sports car 8 to 10. So there's less than 60 cars across the entire world at like the F1 level that you can be racing in. It's crazy
Yeah.
small. And the fact that this man got anywhere near even a fucking whiff of driving for McLaren and Theodore for those. See, that's like if you go to his Wikipedia page, he's like not right. Like his Formula 1 season, he never won any of those races. He was in a bad car. His entire record is like 0-0-0, and it did not finish, whatever. But by God, he was one of the best.
He was, and that's something for all of us to hang our hat on.
It really is.
Like an unsuccessful Irish history podcast.
Yes. He just kept chipping away. If you look at the stats, he never made it. He was never a success. But if you dig deep and ignore the result,
Yeah, if you don't
he
think that
was a
those,
hero.
if you don't think that those two women who literally just walked by Kevin's open bedroom window looked at the two of us holding the microphones and were like, they'll remember that now forever.
They will.
They think we're big boys.
Yeah. That's what it's about. We're not filming this, but we do have the banner up behind us just in case anyone looks in the window.
We're not going to get the recognition, but by God, I'll be sat there in 10 years' time. Kevin will be holding one of the pieces of metal I've given him for safekeeping. I mean, you could have fucking dusted it down.
That's such a funny part. Like his friend genuinely looks upset. He's like, "Man, you didn't even fucking know. I haven't seen you in like 20 years. You didn't even fucking know this was here. Why would I polish it?"
Where were you for my wife's funeral? You were married. What was his name?
Oh, the banter.
Ah, Jesus, he was great crack. Fair play to him, Tommy.
Well, we end on a positive note. Tommy seems to be grand. He's happy enough over there in Daytona, Florida. I think
He's down in Daytona.
yeah.
That is a great life.
Yeah. And I think he's probably, like, he made a fair bit of money in the American circuit, so I think he's probably, like, he's a multi-millionaire, but he's probably okay.
Yeah, like he probably has a house, a good income,
Yeah.
money put away, and enough contacts for his kids to go to college and
Yeah.
not like cripple the family for
Yeah.
it. And that's basically all you're looking for life in America.
That's all you need.
You're done.
He's happy out. But, yeah, this has been the first episode we've recorded of season 9. Probably won't be the first episode we put out, but it's good to be back.
And the energy's back up.
The energy's back up. Welcome back. Thanks for listening.
Yeah. Sorry
And-
about the ads. We had to do it.
We had to do it.
If more of you paid for the Patreon, we wouldn't. But also, it's too late now, so we still
Yeah.
would. But if you do,
1,000 of you start paying for the Patreon, we'll get rid of the ads.
yeah,
Unless Spreaker are listening to this, in which case we love the
we'll
ads.
never get rid of anything
We're never
ever.
getting rid of the
We
ads
love
ever.
our
More ads, that's what I say.
subservience. Subservience.
So we're going to leave you in this. It's just like a nightclub in the 1990s. Good luck.
Shafter.
Shinna
Fina fall. a tough wheeler Heron. Kevin thinks I can't see him looking at his screen for the lyrics. A queer satanic bloom, Sivod vetser, Shantir Ershin Sherfossa, Nilava, Frintir Aknaf, Tram, Another Convonever, Lecanic Consvervostus, Decrex,
You bastards.
Of Tommy Byrne.
Here's some ads.